All right, everybody, welcome. Happy Saturday. What is today? February 3rd. We're going to wait a couple minutes for other folks to come in, and then we will be getting started. Mediocre, how you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. Hear me?
Yep.
Perfect.
Trying out some new software stuff to make this a little better experience for the people watching on YouTube.
I hear you good. Oh, hold on. I can't watch your stream.
Yeah.
I got to mute your stream, mate. We good.
While we're waiting for folks to come in, I'm going to just go over a little bit of data, and then we'll get into our roundtable discussion. So AMC closed at 401 on Friday after quite a battle for a good portion of the day, under $4. I know Mediocre, you and I and many others were watching that very closely and wanting to make sure we closed above $4. And we'll talk about the price action as we get more into this call. Short interest ended the day on Friday at 11.07%. I know some people are happy. If you're looking for a short squeeze, people I talk to, some are happy that it's over 10%. Short squeeze criteria for me on any stock is 20% or higher. So, for myself, I'd like to see it a little bit higher, but it has been going up. So wasn't just a few weeks ago, Mediocre, we were at 7% short interest, something like that, 9.
Yeah. So it is going up.
There was some videos and some debate out on social media about Chart Exchange having the shares outstanding of AMC over 700 million shares. I sent them a note a couple days ago and just rechecked it today. They do have the share count fixed now on Chart Exchange, so it's not showing 700 million anymore. All of these data sites, there's a couple of data consolidators that they subscribe to provide all of these stats. And whichever one they were using had some bad data. So they got that fixed. That goes for your brokers too. They get data feeds on all this stuff. So I would encourage YouTubers, instead of making a video saying, are they hiding information from us? Did Adam Aaron sell 500 million shares? How about you reach out to the data provider? If it's one source that is bad compared to 100 other ones that are right, I mean, unless you're just wanting to do clickbait, how about you reach out to the data provider and ask them to fix it? But that's too difficult for some people, I guess. We had a couple of interesting news articles that I came across on Friday, Mediocre. On CNBC, there was a article from Sarah Whitten. Wall Street is watching for a $10 billion domestic box office in 2026. Disney could get it there. So you guys go check out that one if you're interested. I think some of us are expecting higher than 10 billion in 2026, but these analysts are being very conservative in their estimates, and it's very difficult also to forecast with certainty 2026 because things change, movies drop in, things get pushed out, and so this is an interesting read on CNBC. And then we had a little bit more pessimistic article from Dade Hayes over on Deadline talking about B. Riley analyst Eric Wold, who is WOLD, who is one of the analysts that covers AMC. And he has been, if I'm reading the article here, Eric has been generally bullish on the movie theater business despite its recent trials, but he's now worried about 2024 being a little worse than he thought. And this is kind of a theme of what Mediocre and myself and the other traders that we are all talking to and with every day about AMC, trying to forecast what is 2024 box office going to be. How's that going to translate into earnings and price action? And so it's disappointing to me to read that Eric is getting a little more cautious on 2024. I know some people are going to say this is a hit piece article, but it does go further down. If you read down into the article, he said it's still a little bit early to say exactly for sure what's going to happen in 2024. So I think if I could summarize this article in a nutshell, 8 billion to 9 billion in 2024 is what he's thinking, and 9.92 billion in 2025, which I think is a little bit conservative, but that's just my opinion, and of course he's entitled to his. It says he had 2024 at 8.6 billion, and now he's saying it could go as low as 8 billion to 8.4. So just a slight downtick on his estimate. Everybody has estimates depending on, well, I'm not going to say depending on your agenda, just depending on how you're analyzing the data in the movies, but there always can be outbreak movies that people weren't anticipating. So we'll have to see.
Like the U2 concert movie. I knew something was going to come. I didn't know who.
Yep.
That's here now.
Let me get Corex up here. What's up?
We'll have, a lot of upside with it, but it's going to make money that was unexpected, and that's all I care about.
So, Corex, can you hear us? Oh, is your mic on? I don't hear him if he's speaking.
I don't know.
All right, so Mediocre, I wanted to start out this call.
Can you give me some co-hosts so I could see who's trying to talk?
Yeah. Let me see if I can do that.
Let's see.
I wanted to start out today's talk.
Let's see if this does it. Okay.
There you are, Forex.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you. Yep. How you doing?
Or, Twitter can crash. That works too.
We can hear you. Can you hear us? He's having some connection issues. I wanted to start out, Mediocre, talking about a recurring theme that I see out on social media, especially Twitter. People wringing their hands and crying and wondering, whining, why are all of these people talking about fundamentals now? We didn't get in this play for fundamentals. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've got a few.
I mean, depending on who, some people got in for, they thought that AMC was being abused because of COVID, right? And was being shorted terribly. It was a 100-year-old company. People wanted to help save that company. I think there was a group of people who got in for that. There was others who only got in for a short squeeze play, whatever their choice at the time was, right? But that's the thing with companies in the stock market in general. They evolve and plays change over time, right? Some companies get profitable, some don't get profitable, whatever, right? So it's constantly moving. So the situation basically, in my opinion, changed with AMC, right? We don't have the short interest, and I know some will say that the short interest isn't real and whatever they say. I don't get involved. I'm not going to butt heads with people over that argument or whatever, but fundamentally, when I'm talking about fundamentals, I'm particularly talking about box office, okay? The box office to me is the most important because AMC ain't making money to keep all those theaters open with popcorn or soda or hat or any of the other stuff that they're selling, right? That helps, yes, of course, right? But that's not going to cover their overhead. You follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
And people need to understand that AMC has to cover its overhead. In order to cover its overhead, it has to have movies in the theaters. And if we don't have movies in the theaters, we don't have money. And
I see them up.
That's the stock price.
But I can't hear anybody.
We can hear you, Corax. He's having
we hear you.
Twitter problems, I think. So we got to have revenue, and we don't.
Yeah.
We haven't had enough movies, but
That's highly unhelpful.
I know that. I know that these people must. In 2 years, mediocre. They must have looked at the numbers at least one time. They must have looked at the cash on hand at least once.
Well, I can't hear them is the problem.
They must have known that AMC needs over 10.5 billion box office to be consistently profitable. And they must have looked at the reported short interest and seen, at least now, that it's only 11%. Now, we started talking more about the fundamentals early in 2023, right?
Yes.
As the play really was starting to change, right? Right. Everyone got in it for a short squeeze in 2021, and there was one in June, and then we had hopes of another one, but that never came to be. And then the economy went to shit, and interest rates started rising, and certain stocks got punished worse than others during that subsequent year. But when they introduced APE, that was one thing, okay. But when they said we're going to try and convert it back now, that was really the heads up that this play was changing. If you didn't recognize what was happening and learn to react to that, evolve to it, mentally prepare for it, you were going to get emotionally fried. Is that a fair summarization of why I think certain people, supporters of this company, were forced to say, hey, the short squeeze might be delayed for a little while, or any recovery at all on this play is going to require a little bit more patience because they're running low on cash and they need to raise a little bit more. And in the short term, that's going to be painful. Now we lost mediocre too. Mike, you want to come up and speak also? I see you in the chat there. Grandpa Barney, go on. Grandpa Barney wants to come in and say hi. Go into Twitter, Grandpa, find my profile and just scroll down to the space call and you'll be able to join in there. All right, let me see if I can get these two gentlemen in here. Forex.
I can hear you now again, I think.
Mike, can you hear me?
Question is, can you hear me?
I can hear you,
I can hear everything. I can hear Corax. I can hear Tony.
Okay. Mike, do you have any thoughts as we kick this off? About the topic Yeah, I mean, you
Go
focus.
and comment. I would. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You have a good grasp of the fundamentals. So, and I hear you talking about them a lot. So, can you kind of share? I just shared my personal journey, like how we got talking from a short squeeze 2 years ago to having to focus more on the fundamentals. Now, that was kind of my perspective. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I think most everybody got in to AMC. If they got it in 2021, it was probably a short squeeze, and they got in with the hype. Maybe people in 2020 before were looking at a reopening play. But now, like I still see the short interest. It's still high. I try not to get into like squeeze and market mechanics because I just don't know enough about how that works. Like I'll leave that to guys like Dave Lauer who really know that kind of stuff and what's actually going on. And I can't ever comment for a fact of what's going on. So I try to stick to fundamentals, even though I guess I speculate something's odd is going on based on some of the weird trading and data and volume that you see in the stock. So I just try to stick, okay, what's the balance sheets? Do I believe in the company? And what kind of box office do we need to be profitable? So I keep my discussion to that because that's what I know.
The other reason that I think it's right now vital that we focus on it is I'm very positive about a few things at the moment. I'm positive that the company has, I think with, $1 billion minus whatever cash burn there was in Q4, they have enough cash to get through 2024 and into 2025. Even we saw that on Moody's saying that, and we're going to talk about that Moody's default thing next, but Moody's was saying AMC has enough cash to survive 12 to 18 months easily. So for all of those saying bankruptcy is imminent, Moody's disagrees with you. The company has adequate liquidity.
Yeah, and even as for that CNBC article you brought up earlier, I read that as well. One thing I would like to point out, I think Wall Street is very poor at predicting box office, but the industry is very good. You can see Tim Robbins was in that. I believe his name's Tim Robbins was in that CNBC article, and he was kind of like scoffing a bit at the Wall Street numbers of 8 billion or 10 billion or whatever. He's like, these are low. I guess we don't know, but I expect them to be higher. So I think for estimates, if you focus more on the industry professionals in Hollywood versus the Wall Street estimates, I think that's probably going to get you a closer and more realistic expectation of what the box offices be. They just know the business better than Wall Street does.
I was going to say the reason I'm looking at the balance sheet and the cash and the movies, the domestic box office, is if this play were to start unraveling, like let's say AMC at the end of the year was running really low on cash, and this is not going to happen, but let's say 2025 was going to be an awful year for the movie industry, then I think, we ought to be having the discussion like, hey, there's going to be another big cash raise, or they're going to need to do something. So, but that's not the case. I mean, everything that I'm seeing when I'm looking at the fundamentals says if we can make it through this year, 2025 ought to be a lot better. But I think for everybody, no matter what play you're in, you need to understand the financial statements. Maybe we didn't talk about that enough in 2021, but a lot of times when I'm in a momentum play or a short squeeze play, I don't really care about that stuff, right? You're in it for the momentum of people that are supporting the company and wanting to put the pressure on the shorts. And that's absolutely why I got in. But then, as we said, things changed. And I think it's important for us to be able to pivot as investors and keep up with what's happening in the play. And if that means now we got to talk about fundamentals, that's what it is. Mediocre, I'll bring you back as co-host.
Yeah, I wouldn't completely discount the theories though about short squeezes and numbers not being right. But like I said, I tried to stay away from talking about it. I don't know enough about it, but Even 11% short interest is very high. A short covering event there could have a significant pop on the stock.
Yeah, I mean, the higher it goes, Mike, the more excited I get, because if there is a bomb that drops of good news, the higher the short interest, the more upward price momentum we could potentially get. So I don't get discouraged seeing the shorts increase the short interest percentage.
Yeah, and we know for a fact that there's probably 3 or 4% of short interest under $6, which is yes, to me it seems absurd, but they've just been adding at these low prices. So
seems pretty risky to me to be shorting it at this price, but they also seem pretty determined.
My mic back, Tony?
Yeah, you're back.
All right, good.
Yeah, in terms of a cash burn, I think we talked about this a little bit before. With the cash on hand, and I know you run your spreadsheets, but when you're doing your projections, to burn $1 billion, the domestic box office would have to be like sub $7 billion.
Yeah.
So, I guess you could have maybe 2024 underperforms, but, like a bunch of movies would have to get pulled and go direct to streaming, and lots of bad things would have to happen for that to happen. Like under 7 is ludicrously low.
Yeah, I think, what did I say? My worst case was mediocre, 400 million for cash burn in 2024. Can't remember if I said 400 or 600, but we're not going to burn $1 billion. There's just almost no chance, considering where the box office is at.
Yeah, that's one of the main things we talk about, and why we're talking about staying above $4 on yesterday. I mean, if we bottom out here, which I think we're close to, or we are bottomed out, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say we're going to get a massive run. I don't know that we can, but especially in 2024. But when there's zero, I don't want to say zero chance, but when that bankruptcy is kind of off the table, it makes it easy for me, anyways.
Yeah, there's still a raging debate if bankruptcy is off the table. And I think all of us, for the time being, we all believe it is off the table. Because the company still has a lot of ability to raise cash if they needed to. And box office is only anticipated to get better. Even according to Eric Wald, if with his conservative number of 10 billion in 2026, which I think we have a chance of doing that in 2025. I just, things are not going negative on the box office over the next 2 years. So I don't know how people are so convinced that bankruptcy is imminent. It just seems like purposeful negative sentiment. Either they're angry, their feelings are hurt, they're bitter, or they are short.
Yeah, I was even in a thread with May the other day, yesterday, or the day before, and she was kind of asking about box office projections a little bit, and she gave me a sheet of wide releases, and even this year, especially as you get into Q4, like look at October, November, December releases. It's like every weekend there's a blockbuster movie coming out, and that's what if the strikes didn't happen, if you go and look back at the old box office for 24, that's what 24 looked like, starting in like the end of Q1 all the way through. But those strikes had real impact. Like when you look at all the movies that got pushed out, I believe some guys did some estimates on it, and it was like over 3 billion potential of domestic box office got pushed out of 2024 because of the writer strikes. So that has real impact of the year, and I really think when you look at recovery, I think 2024 was the year before the writer's strike where AMC was going to be had a real good chance of at least breaking even.
Right.
But what this did is push that back 3 to 4 quarters. Because when I look at what's on the slate for Q4 of 2024, that looks like probably the best quarter since pandemic. in terms of what box office is going to be. I think that's going to have a chance at getting into the high 2 billion, maybe just sub 3 billion range with what they have coming out.
Part of the reason that we're having this calls is to bring you guys a more realistic take. We're bullish on the company. I'm a shareholder. I think everybody on this panel owns shares except Corex. Corex is our bad guy on today's.
Bad guy. I'm
Buy
a
some
bad
shares,
man.
Corax. It's $4 a share. Come on.
But
I'm pretty happy where I am.
The purpose of these calls is I still see from the people that are exuberantly bullish that they think 2024 is going to be a blockbuster year. And I even saw someone post yesterday that Q4, the one that we just finished, is going to be the most profitable quarter in the company's history. And I'm like asking myself, what numbers are you looking at to come up with that? As much as I'd like that to be true, they aren't
looking at numbers. That's the problem.
They aren't looking at numbers. Yeah,
no, they're just making up fairy tales. They're LARPing.
As much as I'd like that to be true,
but you shouldn't invest based on that.
As much as I'd like that to be true, the numbers just don't reflect that. And I've been doing this a long time, putting box office in a spreadsheet and calculating the earnings per share. And it's not going to be the most profitable quarter of ever, Q4.
So Tony, I want to.
The fascinating thing though about sorry, go ahead, Mediocre.
Yeah, I really kind of want to talk about like the unknowns. Okay, for example, we know the box office is somewhat weak in 2024 because of the strike and all that. The Hollywood affected what's going on with AMC. I know people don't want to believe that or whatever they want to believe. I don't care. I don't really want to talk about that. The fact of the matter is, we're down on movies in 2024, but on the other hand, he just put out that U2 movie, which it doesn't have to do extremely well. I don't expect it to beat Taylor Swift or Beyonce or any of that. The reason I bring this up, though, is if you put a couple of those in, it's going to help the company. So when we talk about this all the time, we know, the box office is a little weak in 24, but it's about the cash burn and how much we're going to burn, right? And the least cash we burn, the better off we are going into 25. And all those movies that got pushed back makes 25 look really, really nice.
Yeah, and the other really thing that's going to be fascinating about 24, which I think is going to adjust the models that you run and I run and maybe Stock Retail run significantly, is what impact did the distribution of the Taylor Swift and Beyonce have? How is that going to impact the margins, that $300 million?
Right.
And also, so Q4 2023 is the first full quarter with the nationwide rollout of the concession items like popcorn. How much additional revenue is that going to pop in? And I'm not saying it's going to be $1 billion, but you're going to have your first full quarter where you have some of those extra revenue sources that AMC is coming in. And I'm really interested to see how that affects the gross margins particularly, and how that affects the OPEX, because that may change the modeling around significantly enough that maybe it's not $10.5 billion that AMC needs to break even. Maybe it's even a lower number, which I think is another extremely bullish point. So I'm really looking forward to that quarterly to come out.
Yeah, it made it difficult for me to forecast with any real accuracy what Q4 is going to be as far as net profits. But we have a pretty good idea what gross income is going to be, gross revenue. The Taylor Swift, not knowing the exact details of that deal, it'll be interesting to see how the numbers are different on Q4. If I can extrapolate out with some formulas how the Taylor Swift thing might work out financially for future concerts, so we can model it better. But Mike, I don't know if you remember in Q2 in the earnings call, Adam Aaron dropped us one little nugget about the popcorn, the retail popcorn. He said that when it is fully ramped, it'll contribute $100 million annually in revenue. So I think that number is a little bit lower than some people were thinking, but that's what the company guidance is right now.
Yeah, I've looked into that, and I think the U.S. Revenues from microwave popcorn is somewhere around $1 billion. So he's probably expecting maybe a 10% market share. But we'll see if the impact of, because the brand recognition with AMC is something that people don't talk about, but it is definitely a bullish thing. So we'll see if that market share kind of hovers around there, or if they're, with the people who like the company so much, if they're going to kind of pump that up. And from what I understand, they do provide a superior product as well to what else is on the market.
It is great. I buy it myself, and sometimes it's hard to find. I was looking on Amazon last night. I've looked several times in the last 30 days on the AMC store. You just can't buy it. I mean, they're always out. So people are buying the product. Anyone who thought it was a dumb idea, they can go jump in a lake. The company is selling the product. And even if it's only $1 a box profit, I don't know what it is, but even if it's only $1, every single box sold is incremental revenue the company didn't have a year ago.
Yeah. It would be nice, though, if they would break it out so you'd have a much clearer idea of what to look forward to. I mean, it's good that they talk about it on the earnings call, but it'd be even more nice if there was a lot more clarity, so it could be much better modeled, and the investors could have a much better expectation of what's going forward.
I agree.
Yeah, I would expect the breakout to happen once they have a few quarters under their belt of the full U.S. rollout. Like, I don't think there's much point in providing information when it was just in 600 Walmarts, for example, or those kind of initial trials with it. But I expect, once they have a full rollout for a number of years, and they actually have some numbers to promote, they'll probably break that out as a line item, under retail offerings or something like that. Right now, I'm not sure where it's offered. I don't know if it's within concessions or within other income. In terms of the revenue, but I do notice the other revenue line item on their statement of operations has been increasing quarter over quarter all through 2023.
I see Grandpa Barney joined us on the speaker panel here. Grandpa, you want to turn your mic on and say hello? Prove to the folks that you're not Adam Aaron.
Good day, everybody.
Adam Aaron, how are you?
Actually, I thought
If you are Adam Aaron, can you please tell his sons hi for me? Because apparently I know them.
you run in the same circle.
There's
Apparently that was news to me, but apparently I do. I'm still waiting for that check to get cut. If someone could, fill in and.
Grandpa, I saw someone this week, even like after you were on the call last week, I saw somebody a couple days ago still saying that Grandpa Barney is secretly Adam Aaron, and he's paying everybody to push an agenda with super chats. Grandpa, how long has it been since you super chatted anyone?
6 months.
6 months. And you're not Adam Aaron, and are you related? Are you in an industry where you're paid to push content to social media folks and tell them what to say, or do you have a different job?
Unless I'm waking up dreaming every freaking morning, jumping in my bucket truck and going to work to save the world. Yeah, I thought about coming in here and just saying I am AA.
Oh boy!
For the dough.
Yep, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
For the audience, why did you stop super chatting all these social media influencers?
Because the truth eventually comes out, right? I mean, I did it out of respect for their time and energy they put into playing, or doing everything they did, but the longer you're in something, and the more you learn, and the more you educate yourself, you learn that they're feeding everybody a bag of shit. So, it's kind of like I went on a live Discord, and I'm noticing that some of them are still calling for 10,000 a share, and I'm just like, oh my God, do they realize it's like $2.6 trillion? Well, they stopped GameStop at $450 a share. So what makes them think they're going to get 10,000 out of AMC? I don't get it. So I just stopped super chatting because I was feeding a narrative of bullshit, and I just wasn't going to do it anymore.
And a lot of those price rises because we had a bunch of free money. I mean, the Fed had low interest rates. The government was pumping out STEMI checks. That doesn't exist anymore. So, I
didn't mean to put you on the spot, buddy. I apologize for that.
I don't care. I'm a lineman. I don't give a crap. You can't hurt my...
I wanted Grandpa Barney to come up and be able to defend his name, because much like Corax is getting accused of a bunch of false accusations, I get false accusations and death threats every day for talking about AMC and talking about the balance sheet. And Grandpa Barney, being one of the nicest retail investors that I know, an electrician, a lineman working up in a bucket to keep your power on, and working a lot of in bad weather and overtime, to see him, by these nut jobs being maligned on social media just really pisses me off.
Yeah, I just look at the source.
Consider the source.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of these groups, it's become kind of a cult mentality thing where you have certain groups and they don't like each other, and they start going after the people that they don't like, and it's just gotten really nasty. It's kind of sad.
Well, I'll make one point. There was one YouTuber, I won't call him out, but he was complaining about me super chatting. But when I super chatted him, he didn't seem to have any issues with it then. So there you go.
I don't know anyone that's mad about getting money. That tends to shut up a lot of people.
Maybe it's because super chat him anymore. I don't know.
Grandpa,
you can super chat me anytime.
Tell you something. Another thing, when I found out that when you super chat, YouTube takes 30% of that super chat, and I was just like, you know what? That's straight BS. And so I was, I'm not giving 30% of my donation to.
Just buy shares with it, Grandpa, or spend it on your beautiful wife.
exactly.
Yeah, Grandma gets enough money out of me already, but yeah, I do. I've been buying shares with my overtime for 2.5 years. So,
Grandpa, did you ever super chat me?
no, because you're not monetized.
I love it.
Or I could have pissed some people off.
I know you wanted to.
You only have been involved in AMC since the arbitrage opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious if you have any thoughts about we started off this call talking about how some of us that were initially in this play for a short squeeze were forced by what was actually happening to start focusing more on the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
And you being more of I'll say a person not closely associated with AMC, what is, and in some aspects, a person who criticizes a lot of social media influencers in all plays. What is your take on us, the ones that pivoted, the fact that we had to, and the ones that haven't pivoted yet? They're still pumping the MOAS imminent, massive short interest, 10,000 incoming.
Yeah, I've generally left most of the people alone that have made that pivot, so long as they're honest about, and like you've been about, look, we originally were in for this. This is actually the situation. Fundamentals do matter. You know, you had a once in a lifetime situation with COVID where, you know, like I had said earlier, you know, you had all this free money floating about. People could slosh it about however they wanted to. So but the ones that I'm really focused on are more the ones like your I don't want to name drop, but because I've got YouTube videos on them, so you can go watch those. But those are the ones I tend to focus on. The thing that annoys me, not so much with the people that I've seen up here, but some of the people I've seen on YouTube, is where they've made that pivot, but they've never been honest with their viewership about, you know, hey, I got all of this wrong. This is the you know, the process that I've taken as an investor. They just kind of pretend like the past 2 years didn't happen. As far as the company itself, to be honest, right now, I'm kind of out of the markets. It's kind of kicking me in the ass right now, because the market just keeps rallying on everything, which terrifies me when I look at like how I see the economics on the ground. So I've been very selective on what plays I've been in. AMC would have to do something kind of, in my opinion, above the grade. And I don't think they're going to do that this year for me to get into it. There's a few equities that I am in or am looking at, but for the most part, I don't see 2024 being good for anybody. So I've been pretty bond heavy. So I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to AMC strictly, unless it's a lawsuit that comes across my radar, and then I start following it. But that's kind of where I see AMC right now. I have my eye on it if something interesting happens that might make me want to invest, but as a whole, I'm just not a big equity investor right now, because I think it's probably not going to be good this year. When this year, I don't know, but I don't have a lot. I'm not holding my breath on where things go.
Speaking of getting things wrong, this is something that Mediocre and myself and others talk about from time to time. I wouldn't say daily, right, Mediocre, but from time to time, because we're not scared to admit what we got wrong. And I think for our group, the one thing that we keep on coming back to is, boy, we sure fucked up analyzing when Ape first came out, how it would be supported in the market. Like I genuinely thought that people would support that ticker and that the price wouldn't drop to the extent that it did. And I got a little bit rug pulled by not realizing that the company knew this and we didn't. The institutions were going to be, you know, selling it right away because they couldn't hold a preferred equity. So that was a mistake, right? But, and Mediocre, I'll let you talk on this too, but once we realized that mistake, we dug deeper into what was the end goal with Ape. And then around the time we were coming to the realization on that, then they said, oh, and by the way, we're going to convert it. And then it got really interesting because the price dropped even more. And we, in RDD, said, hey, this does not make sense. It's the same fucking equity as AMC, and the price is very disparate. And so there was that arbitrage opportunity to buy more Ape cheap and wait until the point that the court case got resolved, and then fix some of your problem. What do you think?
And what was also interesting about that was a lot of the information that we used. Shout out to the Bad Ape, because he's the one who originally showed me where this information was, but it was in the court documents, you know, and just so everybody knows, like, we passed this information on, like, it just didn't sit with us. Other influencers got this information. What they did with it, you know, that's for other people to decide, but I'm not gonna, you know, call anybody out or anything like that. The only point I'm trying to make about that whole topic was it was blatantly obvious what was about to happen. Would you agree, Tony?
After Ape came down and then they said they were going to convert it, and then we got the court documents and we were able to read the discovery. Yes, it became very obvious to us what was about to happen. that it was going to convert, and that if you had any chance to buy Ape cheaper than AMC, that would be the smart play.
Yeah, but then as soon as it converted, AMC got rugged from about $30 down to
that's
$4.
what I said for a year, that was going to happen. That AMC was going to come down and Ape was going to go up. A lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like that I said that, and they didn't like that it happened. But when you dug into it, and if you believed in arbitrage, then it was inevitable that the two prices would come together.
See, the issue I have with the arbitrage was anybody that was in the ARB for longer than 3 weeks lost their shirts because of the cost to borrow on AMC. So if they were short AMC, long Ape.
I didn't. I had put, so that was the way around it that you could have done.
When I say arbitrage, I did not play the negative AMC side. I just bought cheap Ape. Like, I'm not going to bet against a company I'm invested in, even though that would have been the smarter trade, right? If I knew that's what was going to happen. But I don't want to be on record betting against AMC. So I just bought the cheap Ape.
No. We support AMC and AMC shareholders, right? Like it was never us against them, right? Like we tried to get the information out there. People just didn't want to hear it.
We put the information out there constantly. Nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody listened to it. They didn't use it, and they got hammered.
You should tell your story again, Grandpa.
Tell my story about selling my AMC.
Yeah, tell them what happened, how far down you were, and how you ended up.
No. Well, I was probably down.
I mean, you don't have to. You
I don't care. Almost $300,000. And to take, and when we got all this information, you guys did all the homework, and all the rest of us in the Discord followed along and studied it with them. And it wasn't the easiest thing to do at first, to push the sell button on all your AMC and take a realized loss of 6 figures. But I reinvested it all into Ape. And when we had the small run up on Ape, I sold it all, and when I was done selling, I was back up to 90%.
So you essentially repaired a $300,000 loss by listening to our group of traders in RDD.
Yep, I had to walk through the fear and push the button, to sell it, and then reinvest it back in. But I had complete confidence in my Discord, and look how it played out. So we tried to share that with everybody and anybody that would listen. Bad Ape and me spent hours on groups and individuals explaining to them what was happening, and most people did nothing because they couldn't get over the fear of selling their AMC.
Yeah,
I know some people want to call you a trader for selling your AMC and then buying all Ape, but I'm still buying the company. But when you got that kind of money on the line, you come talk to me about holding as you're down that much money.
Yep. And Grandpa, you know this because you were in my Discord, and we all have at least one phone call every day where we talk about how the trading's going. There were a lot of people that got the same information, even in my Discord, that did nothing. They're like, I just can't bring myself to do anything. I hear the information, I see it, and I'm going to stick with where I'm at. So it wasn't like we had some mission that we rolled out to everybody. You must do this. We just shared the information, and everybody got to make their own decision. And then we talked about it on YouTube, on live streams.
I mean, I still have friends in my Discord who did not follow as well, and I still talk to them, and they're close friends of mine, and I respect their decision, and they understand what happened, and you know what? I still try to help them. I don't want to see anybody lose money, right?
If you're not this play, if you're not evolving with the play and making moves that normally you would, this buy and hold, I was all buy and hold. I was all sold. I was buying shares when they were, $42 a share. And that's why I ended up with so much money. I dumped 2 solid years of my overtime into this play. Most of it just to try to get my average down, right? So because with a high average, if you had a high average or a medium average, and when you went through a reverse split, you are hosed now. Hosed.
So, like I'll put out there, like I never did the ARB. I never sold my AMC. I did buy a lot of APE when APE was especially sub $1. And I've been adding now, and my average is significantly low from adding, just because fundamentally I think the stock's undervalued. But yeah. I did hold AMC throughout the entire ARB play and reverse split and conversion, because based on my risk tolerance, I was looking, like, I thought this thing can still squeeze. I'm looking for big numbers here, and so that's how I played it personally. But now I'm.
Do we lose him?
Yeah.
Yes. Seems that way.
Right at the good spot.
Well, I want to say, like, I didn't want this whole conversation to come up, but it's here now.
Right.
We might as well have it. But no, I mean, I don't want to see anybody lose money. I don't have a problem with anybody. I'm a pretty neutral guy. Tony, you know that. I'm not looking for fame or fortune or any kind of thing like that. I'm just trying to trade and make my money, right? I was in the play because I believed that AMC was being destroyed by short sellers because of COVID, and I thought it was a way to make money. Okay. Did I believe in the short squeeze? I 100% did. I probably should have sold my position at 72, which I didn't. Looking back at it now, I wish I did. I'd be in a better situation than I am now. But you know what? I own a lot of shares right now, and I'm proud to be an AMC shareholder. And I'm just speaking about the fact that I believe that the box office matters, and without the box office, we cannot succeed forward, right? And we were hurt by this strike, and I think we get an opportunity in 2025 for some decent numbers. Do I think that AMC is going to trade at $4 at the end of 2024? I don't. I think it'll be higher than $4, right? So that's just how I see it. And now, do I think we'll be profitable in 2024? Most likely not. So, stocks don't trade in a straight line. I've said this. You hear me say this all the time. They have ebbs and flows, ups and downs, whatever. And you got to pick your spots, and that's just how I see it. And people may not like me for that or whatever, and that's no problem. I'm not going to argue with anybody about it. I'm a trader. That's what I do, and I do what's best for mine and my family. My five wives, my wife and kids. That's really what it boils down to me and what I do with my money.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are learning that diversification does matter a lot more. Like, I know Tony and a bunch of us, talk about AMC because that's what people want to hear about. But he's done a good job of it. And I've talked about other opportunities in the past on my channel, not necessarily in a deep analysis or I'm gung ho into this kind of thing. But I think that as much as people like to talk about these meme stock plays, it's good to talk about some of these more fundamental value investing plays where people have. It's not the same opportunity as everyone's imagined with the short squeeze stuff or anything like that, but you can make good money. And really, investing is not about life-changing money at all in one go. It's about being consistently better than average, and that's the real way that you succeed.
Yeah, we had a conversation on that last week. For me, like myself, when I make a value investing video, almost no one watches them, even though every single one of them made in the last 6 months 20 to 30% gains on all those different tickers that I covered. I'm not talking about the EV companies. I'm talking about like the PayPal's and CVS and Target. I forget how many of them I made videos on in the last half of 2023. They all were solid plays, but people get in this mentality that I need to hit a home run this week. I can only be in one play. It's got to be the riskiest play out there, and I'm going to make $1 million. But it's like going to the racetrack and betting on the horse with the highest odds. If you're right, yes, you're going to be really, really wealthy if you have a good sized bet. But chances are that horse is not going to win. And of all the meme stocks, the thing that I like about AMC the most, the reason that I'm still in the stock or got back in it after I got out for those few weeks to sidestep the reverse split, is that the industry is, over the long term still forecasted to grow. Unlike a lot of the other meme stocks where people are chasing something to zero as convertibles are being thrown on them, warrants are being exercised, no revenue, declining revenues. AMC of the bunch, and GameStop to a certain extent also, if you can get over the fact that the gaming industry is changing, maybe not in GameStop's favor, AMC and GameStop are still two solid plays. Although let's not go into the GameStop discussion, or I'll say some things that are really going to piss people off. But
best to stay away from that, because then I'll say some things that really piss people off.
I'll just say I have my concerns about GameStop, but they have a solid balance sheet and they have no debt. So I need to see the business development ideas, and I'm not seeing that yet. So that's my concern. We'll just leave it at that.
So Tony,
and coming from a different perspective too, like I'm not necessarily a trader. I'm more of a long-term investor. I have most of my portfolio now in like ETFs, total market, worldwide ETFs. But I also hold a portion of my investment money all the time now. I got into AMC for a short squeeze when the time came. But now I look for individual stocks, having learned more, that I think are going to provide an outsized return over the next 3 to 5 years. And the reason why I have an outsized allocation now in AMC, especially at $4, is because I truly believe it's going to it's just a movie theater company, but I believe it's so undervalued that it's going to outperform the overall market in the next 3 to 5 years by a significant amount. And that's making some speculation that the box office is going to recover to a reasonable level, which I haven't seen any data to suggest otherwise. But in terms of adding to your position and being a long-term buy and holder, I think that's great rationale for having a position in AMC right now. It's so cheap, even if it doesn't squeeze, which I still think, contrary to some other people out here talking, I still think there's squeeze potential for it. I think it provides outsized returns because I think it's significantly undervalued compared to what it should be.
Oh, you know what, Mike? I believe in the squeeze, but a realistic squeeze, not some freaking number that long before it ever hit, the SEC is going to step in or they're going to pull a buy button.
Oh yeah, and like I don't give any speculations as to what that number could be, but I know where movie theater industry has traded historically in terms of PE ratios. It's been between like about 16 and 30. Yes. I know what AMC's EBITDA and earnings look like at a recovered box office or a close to recovered box office, and if we start seeing numbers that are way above those PEs, you're in a squeeze, and maybe it's time to kind of trim your position there, right? But even if that doesn't happen, even just straight fundamentally, right, on a recovered box office, the way I see it right now, based on historical trading ratios and based on the earnings AMC makes, based on their current margins at a recovered box office, the stock price of $4 to me is laughable.
Whisperer has his hands up. Let's let him get a word in.
Yeah. So Tony, but before he speaks, there's a few that are requesting, and I just want to say, if we do decide to bring people up, which I'm not opposed to doing at all, just if you come up to speak and you are have the opportunity to do so, be respectful and everybody here will be respectful to you. It's more about an open dialogue for me. I'm not looking to argue and fight with anybody. I'm interested in letting people talk and speak freely on subjects and for everybody to hear. So as long as we could do that, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, and that rule will be enforced. If you come up here and start drama, you're going to be immediately booted. No questions asked, no second chances.
Why do I feel that's directed at me?
No.
No.
Did you get
You're
to talk
awesome,
on the
Whisperer.
last call we had, Whisperer?
I think I did. I don't think I started anything, did I?
No.
No.
He wasn't directing that at you. I remember your name, so I don't remember if it was from last week's call.
No,
I'm
you
not
made my
directing
day.
it at Anybody. I want the open dialogue with people, and it's all people, whether you agree or disagree or whatever, right? I think the community as a whole should be able to hear all sides in a respectful way. That's really what this is all about.
What's on your
You know what I
mind,
mean?
Whisperer?
Yeah. No, I was listening to Grandpa. I'm a grandpa too. I didn't have as much skin in the game as Grandpa did, but he was talking about selling his AMC and playing ape to make it back up and stuff like that. But this is a traders roundtable. That's what this room is about. So I'm going to speak like a trader. Without selling AMC, you could still played ape and made back your money and still held your AMC. Everybody can agree to that, correct?
Yep. I did a
Okay.
spreadsheet, Whisperer, where I modeled for everybody in my Discord if you did nothing, if you did, as you said, hold your AMC and just add more ape. And the third scenario was if at a key point you took all your AMC, sold it, and moved all that money immediately into ape. And you'd want to do that at a point where the spread was at a maximum, right? So you maximize selling your ape and you maximize buying cheap. Sorry, you maximize selling your AMC and you get the cheapest possible ape. So we laid out all those scenarios.
Yeah, there was.
Let me give another scenario.
Hold on one second. You're right. We put that information out there. We had conversations with other influencers about that. That is true, right? What each individual person did was their business. I didn't ask them what they did.
Right.
It didn't matter to any of us, right? It's just that ape was a way to protect your position, and people should have realized that. And that's what the whole conversation was about, to show that. But go ahead.
Right. If you only use those three scenarios, let's add a fourth one where you kept all your AMC and you played the ape where it dropped to ridiculously low 65, 68. I can't even remember what it was right now, cents. And you played that and you flipped it or whatever. You traded it up and you could have made back, a couple 100% and made back a good chunk of what you were down on AMC. And then you could have sold it or you could have held it and added it to your AMC or merge. But either way, it's what's called dollar cost averaging if you held everything and you played it down. Now, what was also mentioned was that institutions couldn't hold ape, right?
Right.
So where did ape go? To retail hands. Okay.
Exactly.
Ape was relatively cheap. Ape went to retail hands. Those that bought in the high levels could have averaged down. I mean, the whole scenario was a benefit to apes that bought high and were down a little bit. The whole scenario was a good setup. It came into ape's hand. Then we had the situation where the hedge funds were beating the crap out of it and abusing it. So we couldn't really raise any money. I don't know. Kind of sounds familiar to what's going on now. Okay. But still, it was in ape's hands, and we all voted to reverse split the stock so we could get the price per share back up so we could go back to raising some money. And look where the company is now. So anybody that has hard feelings needs to take a step back and see what's going on. I'm not averaged out at $48 a share. I'm not averaged out at $72 a share. Okay. I don't have to wait till it runs to 150 to make back my initial investment, like maybe some people who are crying about it are. Okay. This is an investment. If you came in here for the MOAS, then you should have left. If you're crying and whining, this is an investment. Okay. And in the near future, with all these new revenue streams that are coming in, the debt's being paid down. You got a problem? I thought this was no disrespect.
Keep going.
Now,
No one's
with the new
stopping you.
revenue streams, somebody whistled.
No, that was someone's
Now-
phone.
Oh,
Keep
Yeah,
going.
that was my phone. I apologize.
all right. Thank you.
Easy,
And then,
easy on the trigger there. Nobody's stopping you.
Okay.
You got a problem?
No. Yeah, I did for a second. Then it was explained. Now I don't. No, so you have to take a step back. This is a besieged stock, okay, and the company's being besieged. And if you don't understand what you hold, okay, you're not going to understand the battlefield and what's going on. Okay, and that's the bottom line of this whole thing. And now we have, quote unquote, shareholders who are coming in at you from the same level. It's not the hedge funds. It's not the institutions. It's shareholders, quote unquote, that are trying to attack us head on. So understand what the battlefield is. This ain't over yet. It will be shortly, no pun intended. But you got to understand the battlefield. And you never had to sell your shares if you didn't want to. There's no one specific play. So that's all I'm going to say.
Whisper, I gotta tell you that you and I agree on a lot of things. So I don't want you to think that any of that was on you. Actually, I agree with a lot of what you just said right there. You know, and that's part of what this whole thing is about. You know, I've been quiet for a very long time because there's so much turmoil in the community, and I don't like it. You know, I don't like seeing my fellow citizens and my fellow shareholders fucking hurting, to be totally honest with you. It pisses me off. That's not the type of person I am. You know, and anybody who knows me knows that's how I am, right? Like, I don't like to see people getting taken advantage of. It bothers me, right? And so I want people to kind of understand what is actually going on with the company, and so that they can make an educated decision, right? And I'll have a conversation with anybody as long as it's a conversation that's open like this and there's no trauma. I'm perfect with it. But you know, I'd like to see people get out, you know, with all their money. I don't want to see people lose. So that's part of the reason why I'm on here. Like, I never do Twitter. I was never a Twitter guy. But I will say this, I'm on here talking about the stock. Why? Because I believe the box office comes back in 2025. I believe it starts in 2024. And I believe that the stock is trading at a price that it's not going to trade at in the future. And the fact that AMC still has 300 million shares to dilute, like, I'm not taking that off the table. There's always that possibility that could happen. Although I think in my opinion, what I think is not fact. I don't know this to be fact, but I think that he's waiting for an optimum time where he can cash out those 300 million shares to benefit, you know, and stack money on the balance sheet so that he could have a way to pay down the debt. If you look back at 2021, when we ran up $40, $50, whatever, where he sold that, he put $2 billion on the balance sheet. I mean, that could easily happen again in 2025. Will it? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to look at that. All I know is the box office is coming back. It's going to be much stronger. The strike, Hollywood strikes, they hurt us big time for 2024. And you have to recognize that. And that's all that I'm trying to say, right? Like, I want people to think logically about the play and hopefully we get the short squeeze. Like, I'm not opposed to that happening. Like, I hope that short interest climbs back up to 20%, but will it? I don't know. But I'd like to hear from other people, to be honest.
Yeah, just two quick
real
points. Can I throw something in there, a quick whisper? Yeah, just 2 quick points. In terms of additional dilution, I don't think that happens unless 2024 and 2025 severely underperforms. I think they keep shares in the balance sheet. I think AMC starts paying debt from operations started in 25 and they refinance debt. So every company on the S&P 500 has shares they can dilute with, and they do it when they need to. And I think AMC is in a good spot. The other issue, when Whisper said the stock is under siege, and I don't talk about market manipulation. I don't talk about that stuff because I don't know enough about it, but I get where he's coming from. You look at the announcement of dilution by Adam Aaron when he put that $350 million offering out. The price did not drop 20 or 30% over a couple days as they sold shares. The price dropped 20 or 30% instantly in pre-market on 1 million volume before any shares were sold. That, to me, seems like market manipulation. But like I said, I'm focused on fundamentals. I don't know how you explain a 20 or 30% drop of stock price in the pre-market before any short shares were sold on 100 million volume.
Well, I mean, if you've got a bunch of people who've been holding on for this long, thinking that they're going to get a MOAS, and they gotten to this point in the game where they're just so far down.
Retail doesn't trade in pre-market, Noisy. That's institutional.
No, you can totally trade in pre-market. I can trade in pre-market right now, I guarantee you.
Not many retail trade in pre-market, but the fact of the matter is there was a price drop on next to no volume.
Retail
it takes a billion volume for the stock price to go up $1, and then it can drop 30% on
because it was trading in pre-market. There's not as much liquidity in pre-market.
Yeah, retail does trade in pre-market, but the fact is, if a big player comes in and there's no liquidity, or there's not even that much, just not that much trading volume, they can affect the price really easily with a small amount of trades.
I think there was about 30 million volume during that day, but like I said, that 1 million volume in pre-market after the announcement dropped the price 30%. So,
if that 1 million,
I get where Whisper's coming from with saying the thing is under siege, because it seems as soon as AMC is going to dilute, before they can even sell a share, the stock price just starts to tank.
Did Whisperer say he wanted to finish a thought? Because we got someone else with
their hand up. Sorry, Whisperer.
Right. I'm sorry, wait. Just let me finish this. The people that held AMC this whole time are constantly being hit too because they held. And it's not that they did anything wrong. I held throughout this whole thing, and I understand what's happening. Okay. So, I can argue till I'm blue in the teeth with them, and it's not going to change those haters' attitudes. So I don't bother. Okay. The bottom line is it's the market that's dictating what's going on. It's not the company. So if people want to hate those that held AMC and didn't play the ups and downs, didn't day trade, that's on them. All right. But it's not wrong to invest in a company and hold shares. Buying and holding is a way of investing in any stock. You can look at Berkshire Hathaway, you can look at Tesla, you can look at Nvidia, you can look at the big seven, you can look at IBM from back in the day, buying and holding all these years. Okay. You make a lot of money buying and holding. It just depends upon what the action is on the stock.
Okay, but I don't disagree with you. The problem with what you just said, though, is the fact that we're investing in a company who is not profitable. And so,
that depends on how you look at it.
I'm talking, when you invest in companies that are not profitable, then you're at the mercy of them taking money from the shareholders. That is the whole purpose of owning equities to begin with, right? It's a way for companies who are struggling to take money from their shareholders give money back.
Raise capital is the nicer way of saying it. They're in the public market to raise capital, and if they're losing money, they're going to raise capital. dilution, bad debt deals. What you
That's
have
the
it,
big thing
convertible
about being
notes.
an equity. It's the big thing about being an equity holder. You get rewarded the first because you're an equity holder. You also get punished the first, and in bankruptcy, you are the last to get anything. So, like, it's that risk reward situation.
Whisper,
But the reason why I want to have this conversation, though, and what I was trying to get my point across is, if you invest in a failing company, that's in your buying and holding.
Oh, I thought we were talking about
That-
AMC. I'm sorry.
Right. No, I'm talking about any company. It doesn't matter what the name of the company is. But the thing is you made that decision to do so. So to hate on somebody because you're losing money because the short squeeze didn't happen when you invested and bought and held into a failing company, I mean, that's on you. You have nobody to be mad at but yourself. You should have done further DD. That, and I'm not calling anybody out. Realistically, I don't even want to have that conversation, right? My goal here is to just talk about the stock and the benefits of the stock and where I think it could go in the future, right? Like,
Yeah,
I think the box office is getting stronger.
At
That's
this point,
really
mediocre, right? The reason we wanted to have these calls is to talk about, not what happened in the past, because the past is the past. People have made the decision to stay in the play. And I think it's good for us to have a forum where we talk about what we're seeing in the fundamentals, what we're seeing in the box office, and what we think is likely to happen over the next year or two. Not sit here, Ryan, and wring our hands over the past.
It's a very common talking point you get from people who are bearish on the company too, who talk about, well, look at the balance sheet in 2017. Look what happened. They didn't make money on an $11 billion box office. Well, it's not 2017 anymore. It's 2023, and the company's margins have significantly improved. And we're at a stock price of $4 right now. And it's like, what's happening now? And where is it going forward? Is this a company that's going to bankruptcy? Well, I think the chances of that
but dollars spent, food and beverage, dollars spent per customer, it was up like what, 30, 40%, Mike? From $5 to $8?
It's 30% of per patron up. That's huge. When you look at you look at AMC's gross margins. So for every movie ticket they sell, they get 51. For every dollar of movie tickets they sell, they get 51 cents. For every dollar of concessions they sell, they get 78 cents. Right. Once they get past their fixed expenses, their OPEX grows at 13 cents for every dollar of revenue. Once AMC gets past the point where fixed expenses are covered and we're like at about $10 to $10.5 billion domestic box office, the net margins for AMC are very, very good. But the box office has to be there first. Yeah. And they're only getting better with these other retail offerings. And I'm not saying they're going to be $1 billion, but those margins just get better and better. And everything's kind of up and to the right. And people are talking about the past, and people are talking about AMC as a company in 2021 and how it's going to go bankrupt. Well, the chances of that happening, like we're over that hump. We're past that hill.
I agree.
Moving forward, the company looks to be doing extremely well.
And it's at a place that is
White Mouse has his hand up. Let's let him get a word in real quick.
Yes, please.
So I personally held through the reverse split and conversion. Okay. So I'm down considerably. The point I was trying to make a point about, we were talking about hypotheticals, or what people could have done prior to it and everything. I was always planning to hold through the whole thing. But if I wanted to, I could have bought APE on a different broker account, and I could have bought it low and sold it high or whatever, and not affected what I already had, what the other positions I thought I was already holding shorts in their positions. So I'm just giving, that's another hypothetical that people could have done too. So it didn't have to be you had to sell all you were down and then switch over, because some people, I do believe, still in the short squeeze. I believe the shorts are trapped, and they're gonna reveal the positions. Their positions are gonna keep, the short interest are gonna keep increasing, and the institutional buying will keep increasing. And February and January are the bleakest months. They're the best months to get people thinking about their emotions. The same can be true for the peak of summer too, you know. But I just think I was just trying to give another view out that it didn't have to be, you know, there's always other scenarios too.
Wait, Loss, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything like that, and it's not going to be a hard question. What do you think about the price at $4 for AMC right now? Do you think it's a reasonable price, or do you think it's undervalued?
I think it's undervalued. I can't remember the math at the moment, but I think it's considerably undervalued. And again, I think with the increased revenue and with them trimming, like I know I'm in Minnesota, so I know they closed 2 AMCs, so they're closing AMCs that are less profitable. And yeah, so I think the stock is at least like on a fundamental basis is worth more than it is. And then I think
No, I agree.
And I think if you add the short interest and what that would do to the stock price, then I think it's definitely a really good buy-in at $4.
I mean, I like it at $4. You know, I think it's worth substantially more than that. I don't really have a exact price target of whatever, but I can say that it's under $1 billion market cap, which is interesting to me.
Well, if you want to run some numbers, I've kind of modeled out what so at a fully recovered box office, the 3 years pre-pandemic, AMC sold an average of 1.25 billion tickets. So at current ticket prices, that would be a domestic box office of about 13.2 billion. So this is kind of like the moderate case scenario. It doesn't grow, it just kind of recovers to where it was going, and that's it. At a $13.2 billion box office, that amounts at current margins, that amounts to about a $1.3 billion EBITDA and about 800 millions of earnings. So if you're trading at a PE ratio of, I don't know, somewhere between 16 and 30, I think you can kind of figure out a valuation from there of what it's traded at historically.
Have you looked at figuring it for enterprise value, considering its debt load?
Yeah, well, the thing with debt load is you can figure out the value of the company just based on earnings, because that takes into account interest payment on debt. And the thing with debt is, you know, if your earnings are 800 million, you're slowly paying that off over time. Like even if you look at the forward guidance in 2019 that AMC put out, they knew what their FCF would be moving forward. Their CapEx was going to drop down significantly because they spent all the money they needed to putting in recliners and rebounding all the theaters. And they even talk about, like, their plan was to have their debt reduced by about 30 to 40% in 5 to 7 years. And they would have been looking at FCF right in 2020 of over $300 million. And that was the start of the debt pay down. So like I said, the debt doesn't bother me. That gets paid off over time.
Dr. Paul, you got something you'd like to share?
Yeah, this is a great call, you guys. Appreciate you. It's a good conversation. Everybody is well-mannered. Really appreciate it. I do hear kind of one theme that kind of continues on, and I'm wondering if anybody has a good empirical source or factual source that we can point to. I hear all the time that, you know, shorts need to cover. Shorts are trapped in their position. I'm in a thread with a guy right now who keeps telling me that, you know, shorts are trapped and that's what's going to cause this enormous squeeze. I'm just curious, like, at what price would shorts be trapped at on a stock that's done nothing but decline in price and provided them ample opportunity to get out of that short position for almost the better part of, you know, going on 2 years now, and probably for the past 6 weeks has reached all-time lows, you know, on a almost nearly consecutive basis on a weekly basis. And I'm not trying to be smart. I just hear that as like justification why people still kind of, you know, you guys haven't been promoting it that much, which is great, but I still hear that a lot from kind of like the ape crowd as justification for, you know, why this is going to do what they predict it's going to do. I'm just curious where that comes from and what price they think people are trapped.
Yeah, I can comment short term. I know in the last 6 weeks, about 5 to 8 million shares are short under $6. So, short term, there's any price above $4 as it starts to climb is probably going to cause a short covering event. I don't really talk about the rest of it. A lot of people think there's a significant amount of shares that were sold short naked and they're not covered. And the volume is so big that once the price starts rising, they believe that, those guys are going to be screwed. But I just don't know about that, and I can't provide any data on that. Short term, I know there's a significant amount of shares short, just under $6.
Yeah. Let me set the storyline. Let me set the storyline, and then we'll have people weigh in on their thoughts. And I know what most of you are going to say already because I talk to you every day. But for those that are, and there's a reason, just a warning, there's a reason that a lot of people hate me in the AMC community because I have a different outlook on shorts, and I only report on the Ortex reported short interest. So if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but you're here to just hear our thoughts, and not everybody shares your thoughts. We all have different ways of viewing the play. But the folks that are saying the shorts are trapped are the same ones that believe in a billion. I've even heard people say trillions of naked shorts that are undocumented somewhere. And they think that there's billions of shorts that shorted at 72 that still haven't covered, and they're scared to cover because that would drive the price up if you had to cover 1 trillion shares. I say to those people, if there's 1 trillion shares out there, then we must all each own about 200,000 shares each, because someone had to buy them if they short sold them into the market. Where's all those shares? Do you guys each own a couple 100,000 shares? Do the math.
Where's the votes?
Where's the votes? If there's 1 trillion or billions of shares out there, how come we can only get 28% of the people to show up to vote? So I don't push that line, Dr. Paul. The shorts are trapped. The shorts are scared. In my view, the short interest is relatively close to an accurate number of what's being held overnight by shorts. And then every day there's shorts coming in and out of the play, sometimes multiple times in a minute, right? High speed trading shorts. So that's how I view it. I don't push the shorts are trapped, shorts are scared line. And I try and stay out of those discussions on social media, on Twitter, because it's not going to end well. And I don't like fighting on Twitter. That's not what I'm there for. I'm there to have intelligent, fact-based discussions.
Oh, if you're trying to have intelligent discussions on Twitter other than like this space, then you're really in the wrong place.
I mean, that's I don't like talking about synthetics or failure to delivers or any of that. I'm just going to say this. Part of the reason is that when we hit the all-time high at $72, right? You have to look back and understand that AMC was extremely overvalued at that price. So what transpired is what should have transpired. So in my belief, and I'm not looking for drama or any of that, is short sellers knew there was money to be made. It was an easy short opportunity for shorts, right? Now I thought we could overcome that. I did, and I wish that we did, but the sheer fact that they knew, that's why the cost of borrow was getting so high, right? Because everybody was borrowing to short it because there was a lot of money to be made on that side because it was overvalued. When people say the fundamentals don't matter, I mean, I don't know. I think they matter, right? But a short squeeze play can happen without fundamentals, right? Like, I'm not opposed to saying a short squeeze play can't happen. I'm just saying there's at a point when a company is extremely overvalued, the shorts are going to win that play because they have the momentum in their direction. Right? Because who's going to pay? in order for the stock price to keep climbing, somebody's got to buy at those high denominations. So it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of people to buy at 72, 80, 100. That's all I'm trying to say, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and on the other side of that mediocre, when a company is extremely undervalued and the short interest is 10, 15, 20%, that's the perfect time for a short squeeze play, which is, in my opinion,
that's why we're here talking
AMC
about it,
right
Mike.
now. Yeah,
we like the setup. The lower the price gets, the more we like the setup here. It's still not risk-free, right? The company's going to lose money this entire year unless we have some upside surprise. It's not a risk-free $4. But the cheaper it gets, the better the setup gets. And instead, I'm seeing a lot of people turning negative on the play. They were going hand over fist, throwing money at it at $60 or $70 and had no problem about that. But now that it's at $4, they're like, oh, this company sucks.
Yeah. Before COVID, what do you guys really think?
And
when I answer a question,
when has AMC traded at fair value? Like, say before COVID, has it? What do you guys think?
Well, I think AMC got smashed down.
I think the box office is getting stronger.
I think AMC got smashed down. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think AMC got smashed down pretty hard when they took on the debt, started the roll-up strategy. So I think instantly there was a sentiment issue. Yeah,
2016.
Yeah. So there started, number one, there was a sentiment issue. People were kind of like starting to get gung-ho on streaming and saying that was going to kill the theaters, just like VHS or DVD or whatever else happened. And then AMC took on leverage, right? So they started trading at very low multiples price to sales because they weren't profitable. They're spending a lot of money on CapEx, upgrading all their theaters, and the market priced them down. But I know historically, so the way I look at it, the movie industry, if you look at Cinemark, if you look at Marcus, if you look at AMC, historically they've traded at a PE ratio between 16 and 30. Some have gotten as high as 40, but I don't think that's realistic. So you take an average in there, and like I said, on a recovered box office, AMC's, I know roughly what AMC's earnings are from modeling out their statements of operations. So, say if they're trading at a PE of 20 and the box office is recovered a couple of years from now, they're significantly under what a reasonable valuation would be at the current float. Even if they got rid of all their shares and had 550 million float, the price right now doesn't make much sense.
So again, kind of that question. Was there ever a time that you
I agree with you.
AMC was trading at fair value?
I would have to go back and look. So there were times, I think, prior to them starting the roll-up, so when they were still a smaller company, that they were trading at price to earnings of in the 20s, and that's probably where their fair valuation was. But the issue now is the company's never operated on a normal year at their new size. And people are pointing back to, 2017, 2018, 2019, they weren't profitable, without taking into account the fact that, with the roll-up strategy, when they took on Carmike and Odeon, they took on a bunch of dogs, so they had to shed some theaters. They had to spend a bunch of their free cash flow on CapEx, rebranding theaters and upgrading all the theaters. So 2020 was going to be like one of the first years where they started operating normally, but then COVID hit. And I think they obviously got predatorily shorted to prices where they can raise capital.
Back before 2016, you're thinking like
before
Adam Aaron.
Before 2016, they were probably trading at reasonable PE multiples.
Yeah, they were holding pretty steady, before 2016 at the $20 to $30 range with some, little bit of variation. But then for those who haven't been on one of our calls where we talk about the roll-up strategy, roll-up is where you take on debt or leverage to buy up competitors, and AMC's strategy was to do that and become the big player on the block and to get some economies of scale. But they still needed, in 2016 and the couple of years before COVID, they still needed the box office to continue to grow. And it wasn't, that's why the price, because they took on that debt and the box office was kind of flat, the price went down from 2016 to 2020. A lot of people try and say, that was Adam Aaron trying to bankrupt the company by taking on these competitors and taking on the debt. And that's not what I've seen in their board meeting minutes. They executed a strategy dependent on some incremental small growth in the box office. And maybe by 2025, 2026, we'll finally get to that point. And even though we had that point, right, Mike, in 2019 where we had that close box office, but what's changed from now since then is the margins have improved.
Yeah, if you look at, and just the easiest way to see that on the 10 Qs is if you look at Q3, the domestic box office was 2.65 billion. So that's a lower domestic box office than any quarter in 2017 to 2019, yet AMC was profitable.
Right.
And in higher quarters, they weren't. So you see some of the efforts put through in the retail offerings and the efforts in shedding the dogs that they had to pick up as part of their rollout strategy, and how much more efficient the company has become. So I think that's an easy example to see how the difference pre-pandemic, post-pandemic is. They just need the volume back for movies.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
can I answer a question here?
Yeah, and I'll be quiet so Whisper can talk. I was just going to mention one last thing. Yeah, Mike. I mean, not only do they need volume for movies, they actually need hits. They can't survive like staffing a bunch of people for movies that just aren't getting people in the seats. Like that's like volume makes it sound like it's just create the movie and they will come. But I think that we saw that that's not really true comparing like a Taylor Swift distribution piece, which is, a unicorn in terms of how well it did for a concert movie, and compare that to Beyonce, right? Like Beyonce performed nowhere near what Taylor Swift did. So it's not so much the volume as you actually need the hit. Like you actually need to hit.
No, honestly, I don't think it's a game of blockbusters. I think blockbusters are good, but if you go back to previous pre-pandemic years, 30 to 40% of the domestic box office is movies under $100 million. Right. So in 2023, there were about 589 releases. In 2019, there were over about 900 releases. Right. So what you really do need, and what the pandemic did, was not only did it shut the movie theaters down, but it killed production. So, your Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies could spend another $100 million to keep pushing through and keep creating that movie. But the smaller studios who had budgets of, $20 or $30 million, those movies weren't getting greenlit. Those movies weren't moving forward. And probably last year is the first year that things are starting to get greenlit and built. And then the writers and actors strike happened. But if you look at the releases over time, they're going up and to the right. And I think probably by 2025, you're going to be in like in the mid to high 600s, and 2026, 27. There's nothing to suggest to me that volume won't increase. There's definitely a latent demand for movies. Look at what happened with Barbie and Oppenheimer. People want to go and enjoy the experience. I guess we're getting more into speculation as to what people's preferences are and things like that. But I would disagree that it has to be a whole bunch of blockbusters coming out. I think we have the blockbusters in place. I think what's missing is those small budget movies that fill in the seats and that provide a significant amount of box office year over year.
All right, Cynic, I saw you had a mic request. I don't know if we were full on speakers, so go ahead and try again if you have something to say. And I see Whisperer has his hand up again. Go ahead.
Well, I've had it up the whole time since the question was asked about the shorts. But I love it when people throw numbers out to support an answer, Mike. That was great about the what's required to make money. So in answer to whether the shorts have covered and stuff like that, I'm just going to use basic numbers that I use to decide whether or not shorts have covered or not. And I'm not going to go into bundling things up and sending them overseas and stuff like that. I'm just going to use the numbers to.
Tony, do you hear me?
Yeah, mediocre.
Is anybody speaking?
Yes, people are speaking.
I'm speaking with.
I can't hear them. I'll be back.
Yeah, I can't hear whoever's speaking.
All right, he's going to drop off and come back. That was mediocre.
All right, so can I continue?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So anyway, discarding the institutional holders. Some, one place says it's 20%, one says it's
Somebody talking right now.
10%. Yeah, I know they're trying to interrupt me here. They can hear everybody but me, which is kind of bull. But everybody else can hear me.
I can hear this. Yeah.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm just going to use those numbers. So if you take away just the institutional holders of the stock, it leaves about 225 million shares for shareholders, which basically means that everybody can only have about 60 shares. So if anybody has more than 60 shares, they're liars if the shorts have covered. So that's one way of telling whether or not there's naked shares out there, FTDs, whatever you want to call them. And like I said, I'm not going into the explanation of bundling things and throwing them offshore where the authorities can't go after, can't make responsible, and so on and so forth. To enforce them to cover and things like that.
Have you had any of your rationale for why they haven't covered peer reviewed?
Oh, now he can hear me. Now he can hear me. See, there's interruptions so that I can't explain what I'm saying.
Sorry.
No, I said I was going to keep it basic.
No, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
I'm just keeping it basic. The rationale is how many shares per shareholder if the shorts have covered, and that number is about 60. So if you have more than 60 shares, okay, the shorts have not covered. That's basic math. Math is math. Okay. So if you're buying shares now,
how many cows do you own?
All right, guys.
Yeah,
I don't want this roundtable to get into a debate about whether the shorts have covered or not. So I'm going to politely end this topic because it's been 2 years. The price has been walked down. Doesn't matter whether they covered or not. It is what it is. We're talking about what do we do going forward. All right, Simic.
Well, this is what I was saying.
Hang on. Cynic, go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
I would like to point out that just because one individual owns more than 60 shares, you're looking at everybody, right? Like, I don't own any cows, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any cows in the world or the universe. So I could own 60 cows. That doesn't mean everybody in the world owns 60. It's a ridiculous way to look at statistics, Whisper, and I think you know that.
I think the point he's trying to make is if there's only say 1 million individual shareholders, that's like 226 shares a person, and for people who have been in this play for a long time, that number seems laughable. That's the point he's trying to get.
We talked
Can
about
we
that.
prove it? Can you prove it? It's impossible.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because not all retail shareholders are apes. We've had this discussion before.
Oh, sure. But like, pick a number, is it, how many apes are there? Is it 500,000? Well, that's about 500 shares a piece. That's the point he's trying to get across, but it's like, it's just an argument that can go on forever because nobody can prove either side of it.
That's why I don't want to spend this valuable time debating something that nobody has evidence on. So let's move on. Cynic, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to really quick touch on, someone said that it was profitable. And what happens if you just look at operating margin and debt payments and discount the fact that they are realizing revenue based on extinguishing debt at a discount using equity raisings.
Right. You mean like what they did in December?
Yeah, precisely. Issue equity, raise cash, extinguish debt at a discount, realize the discount as revenue.
Yeah, but semi-cynic, that's not what happened in Q2 and Q3. That there were operational
in Q2, Q3.
Yeah, they were. They had small profits. I think it was like 8 million in Q2 and 12 million in Q3 on domestic box offices that were about 80% of your typical summer, with 65% of your typical releases. Mike, Mike, the company is profitable.
Some of the income on Q3, Mike, was non-cash revenue from debt for equity. That is a fact.
You mean from offerings? Offerings don't show up on the statement of operations.
No, from debt for equity exchange.
Okay, you can go to Q2 then. But yeah, when you run those numbers, it's still a company that's running on a lower box office that's getting close to profitable then. that's running at 80% of your typical summer box office on 65% of your releases, and all those numbers are going up and to the right.
So here's something interesting. You said 80% of the box office on 65% of the releases. The majority of your revenue is going to be concentrated in your upper decile of releases. That means the big blockbusters are going to take the biggest slice of the cake. And these are ones that are relatively not impacted by, like, COVID, I'll say. But at this point, that is water under the bridge. You're looking at major releases that are deconflicted, scheduled, and funded well ahead of time by major production facilities. The reason that these other movies, the other 35%, have not reemerged is because they don't have a profitable way to produce them. Right? This isn't like, oh, the aftershock of COVID. This is, no, we just can't make a $30 million movie that's going to gross $50 million and get everybody paid. It's just not in the cards anymore.
Well, anyone but use a $20 million romantic comedy that's 60 to 75 million domestic right now. Friday Night at Freddy's was a $30 million horror that made over 100 million domestic. I completely disagree.
Just let me finish. What survivor bias means, okay? What I'm saying is that for the majority of these smaller pictures, there is just simply not the demand profile to create a profit on the tail end. That is why they're gone. But with that in mind, it's a very small segment of the overall box office revenue. So you might as well just look at what you've got and look at what you will have moving forward. Don't dwell on the number of releases from yesteryear.
Okay, so two things, Sebi Cynic. Number one, pre-2019, movies under $100 million accounted for 30 to 40% of the domestic box office. That's not small. That's not small at all. That's billions of dollars. Number two, the releases have been going up year over year since pandemic lows by double-digit percentages. So more movies are getting made. And the blockbuster numbers are roughly where they were pre-pandemic. They're a little bit low, but roughly where they were. So all the other additional releases are small budget movies. They're coming back, and they're going up year over year. So there's no trend to suggest that they're going to stop, or that they're going away, or that they have stopped. So I don't know where that theory comes from, because it's not based on any sort of real data.
I didn't say they were going to stop. I said that there is a new trend line established, and you should not be expecting previous years from a previous paradigm to be a solid predictor of your forward-looking guidance for A, the revenue on these movies, B, how many are going to be released, right? Like you said,
you know what? I'm not
of the box office was realized on 65% of the releases. So it is a front-loaded metric. You get the bulk of your revenues from those major movies, which I don't think you would dispute, right? You agree with me there. And what I'm saying is that in this environment, there is less incentive to produce these smaller movies. And if you do, streaming is a valid venue to minimize distribution costs.
Well, I think, in our calls previously, we've all agreed. Well, I've stated, maybe everybody didn't agree, but there's the bull argument is we expect box office to continue to grow, and analysts tend to agree with that, although the extent of where it ends up in 2025 and 2026 is still to be determined. That's the bull argument. And then the bear argument, which you're making, is that box office is going to flatline, or the number of releases is not going to grow. The industry is going to decline. So I think that's well established. Everybody understands everybody's viewpoint, and people are entitled to have an opinion like yourself, and other people might have an opinion that it's going to grow. We're not here pushing that it's definitely going to be 13 billion in 2027. Nobody knows for sure, but we cover what analysts are predicting, and we talk about improving margins, increasing revenue streams, and maybe they don't need, like Mike was saying earlier, maybe they don't need 10.5 billion in 2025 or 2026 to be profitable. So it's just something we want to have the discussion. We want to talk about the numbers. We want to keep a close eye on them every quarter that they come out, and keep people in a realistic state of mind so that as things develop, we can properly analyze the play. The bull case could be right, or the bear case could be right. I don't know. It's a year or two out.
And if the squeeze happens and we're possibly wrong, so be it. We all benefit, right? But let's talk realistic about things, right, Tony?
Right.
Yeah, and I will concede. I will concede the piece about releases being lower once they level off, but they haven't leveled off yet, and we don't know where they're going to level off. And I will concede that streaming is a viable alternative to movie production once every other streamer that's out there becomes profitable outside of Netflix, which isn't the case. So I think the shift back to theatrical is realistic because every streamer outside of Netflix needs money.
And if we're going to be realistic, why can't the ones that believe that theaters are going to stick around and stay, and theaters like AMC that have alternative revenue streams are constantly under attack, and not a good business and not going to be profitable, so on and so forth? Why can't that be accepted?
Whisperer, I agree with you. We should have this conversation, right? Because I've read several articles that say that streaming services, when movies get put out to streaming service and they don't go to theaters first, they lose money, right? So a lot of those movies are moving back to the movie theater. I'll give an example.
All the top 10 streamers on Netflix are all theatrical releases.
Yeah, and I met with that man in Boston. I don't know what that is.
Not noisy.
Tony, got to remove them up.
Is that me or some? Are y'all hearing feedback?
Yeah,
yes. Sound like
Hey, I was just going to say quickly, sorry, Tony, I got to drop down from speaker, but I'll still be listening. I got some stuff I got to get done.
Thank you for sharing
thanks
your
for the
thoughts with everyone, Mike.
Thanks, Mike, VOGR.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. I just wanted to talk about that. From what I've read, Tony, a lot of streaming services lose money when they go right to a streaming service, and the movie doesn't go to the theaters, theatrical. So, I think that's a point that's going to keep theaters relevant.
Yeah, it's happening again.
That the situation is that they're going to have a more limited purpose. A lot of the whole purpose of theaters is basically advertising. Whether that was in the old days advertising for the DVDs, or nowadays advertising for the streaming service. It's not.
Is that's Corex that's causing that feedback, right?
Yeah, I think he's having some connection mic issues or something.
Yeah, I was trying to remove him from Mike, but I couldn't.
Corex, we're getting a lot of static and buzzing on the call when you're speaking.
Sounds like an electric helicopter.
Yeah, if you can maybe drop out and try and come back.
I removed him from speaker. I got it.
Weight loss, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to bring in, so I hear what people are saying. I like to tweak it a little bit. So the comparison between Taylor Swift and Beyonce is that Beyonce wasn't a full concert movie, so it's not as exciting. So that's another reason why it wasn't as popular. Of course, maybe Taylor Swift has a bigger audience too, right? But that's another thing to say.
Yeah, I was surprised Beyonce didn't do more numbers than she did, because she's a pretty big star. But I guess not as popular these days as Taylor Swift. Whisper,
But I said like the concert format though, when you don't have behind the scenes that get away from the songs,
yeah.
it's not as engaging.
Whisperer, what's up? He's got his hand up.
Yep. Sorry, trying to fix my thing here because I don't see whoever's talking. My system is backed up, but no, I was just gonna add to the point that
hear you earlier.
Go ahead.
No, everybody else heard me, but I was just gonna add that Netflix is subscription based, and that's where they make most of their money. But they keep adding subscribers to their system. It's not because they are making it off the ads and stuff like that. They make some money, but most of it is subscription based because they have so many subscribers. I was just going to add that. It's not that it's a profitable business plan. It's just that they add people and they charge them out the credit cards. For lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think even Netflix was forced to start offering a program with ads to increase their revenue, right?
That's what I just said. They're doing ads and they have to increase their subscribers every other month or something. But they got rid of the sharing, the ability to share unless you pay for more, and they've had to add subscribers and they bumped the prices. And they just got rid of their lowest price add up or purchase thing.
All right,
or subscription.
I'm going to shift the topic just for 1 minute because I did a video on this, but this was another thing that was going around this week. Just in case anyone didn't watch my video or see the tweets from myself or May or a few other people that were explaining about the default thing that was going around in the news and being pushed by certain bears that AMC had a default on their credit rating. I do have a 5-minute video explaining that if you want to go watch it, but there was a technical default according to Moody's rules, how they categorize a default. When you do a debt for equity exchange, which AMC did, I think, 2 or 3 of in December, they put a several day notation on your account that there was a technical default, and then it comes off. So it was on there, and I showed you in the video where that also happened in February of 2022, I think it was, and then one time in 2020 where you get the technical default, and then a couple days later it comes off. So AMC did not default on any debt. It hasn't missed any interest payments. There was no declaration of bankruptcy. So anyone who's pushing this AMC is in default notion is not giving you the complete story. Dr. Paul, I saw your hand up for a second.
Oh yeah, it was kind of before you were kind of changing direction. So I don't want to derail. I had questions more about some of the new line of business offerings for AMC. So I'm not going to, we don't have to go back and revisit that.
Mediocre, did you have any other topics you wanted to talk about? We talked about in the beginning of this call why some of the discussion has shifted from short squeeze to fundamentals out of necessity. We talked about, we just covered the debt. We covered some news articles going over box office in 2025 and 2026, analyst projections. Did you have any other topics you wanted to cover on this call?
I mean, I just more or less want to hear from the community itself. Like, I want to hear what others are kind of thinking. Like, are people starting to kind of see AMC for what it is? You know what I mean? And you know, I don't know. I'm curious as what others think.
I'm curious to hear. I'm curious to hear from someone who is so mad that they think $4 is a bad price. I mean, I see these people posting $4. It's headed to $1.
I don't understand that.
I'd like to hear someone that is a shareholder.
Right. I mean, you know what I hold. I have a substantial amount of shares at a very good cost average. So I am, you know, I care what the outcome of AMC is going to be this year and next year. Do I think it's going to be, you know, sooner than I don't. I think we could get a small move, you know, recent because I believe we're bottom here. But you know, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. You know, I don't want anybody to think I know everything. I don't, and I don't portray myself to know anything like that. So I don't know. I guess I just want to hear what others think. You know, rational thoughts. You know.
Yeah, I think we've all been surprised, mediocre, about the pressure that the shorts continue to bring to bear on the price. I don't think any of us thought it would get down to $4, and it does make me nervous. It does make me nervous that they're gonna use this Q1 to keep on applying that pressure. So I'm just trying to mentally stay calm through Q1, at least till earnings, and see what kind of forward-looking sentiment the company gives. And we don't have a date yet for earnings, but Cinemark is going to be Friday morning, the 16th. So I'll be hosting a live stream to listen to what they have to say, and then AMC will be following shortly after that, probably within the next week.
That's a good conversation because, you know, and I used to do it too, right? Like, I would complain about Cinemark and their price movements.
Yeah.
You know, I was at fault for that, and I'll admit that, right? Like, but instead of trashing Cinemark, we should actually, what you suggested, which I've been doing, you know that, but following Cinemark and comparing them to, right? AMC is the largest, you know, but Cinemark has just as much debt, but they're more profitable because they have less overhead, right? I don't know. So it's interesting, but people should pay attention to both and understand why that one's moving and this one's moving the way it's moving and vice versa, you know? I mean, I think that's a good logical thing to do.
If you're upset about Cinemark, or you're trying to, in your head, you know, ask, why is Cinemark, you know, at $14 and AMC is at $4? I do have 2 videos going through Cinemark's last 2 earnings and doing a detailed comparison of what is different with Cinemark versus AMC. And like Mediocre said, being half the size of AMC, they have lower fixed costs, and they have the ability to be profitable at a lower box office. And they do have less debt, Mediocre. Let me pull it up.
Yeah.
They have
Well,
long-term debt is $2.3 billion, so about half of AMC. So they just have, I mean, they have the ability to be more nimble because they are smaller. So if they are doing a little better in terms of market performance, if they're doing better in terms of having institutional buyers support them, it's because it's not as risky of a play.
So, Tony, I want to tell that funny story about Cinemark.
Okay.
So, Tony had created a video on Cinemark. I never seen the video. I seen it after the fact, but at the time I didn't see the video. And he had posted it the night before I had a conversation with somebody in my Discord. Now, Tony and I, we weren't talking about Cinemark at all. But I ended up talking to somebody in my Discord just for reference about fundamentals, exactly what Tony was talking about, and why Cinemark has a better price. And so I had posted a about Cinemark being a buying opportunity because where it was trading or something versus what AMC
and a
was
high
at.
short interest.
Yeah, and short interest, right? And I was correct, and so was Tony. So I posted that on my Discord, and Tony immediately dropped his video behind it. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
that was ironic because we were both looking at Cinemark, but we were not talking to each other. And I think we both came to the same conclusion, right? Like it's actually a pretty decent short squeeze play if you believe that the movie industry is going to grow in 2025. They've had three profitable quarters, and let me see what the short interest is on Cinemark. I think it was like over 20% when we were looking at it, wasn't it? Mediocre.
yeah, it was high, and I just want everybody to know right now I don't own any Cinemark.
I do not either. 28% short interest on Cinemark right now. Crazy.
Yeah.
So in an AMC Traders Roundtable, we're talking short squeezes on a rival theater company.
No, what we're talking about is I see people saying, "Oh, why is Cinemark doing so good? I don't understand how. Why." You need to understand it, and that's why I started looking into it. Because if you don't look into their finances, you can't understand why they might be doing better on any given day than AMC. That's all. I encourage you guys, if you're asking that question, if you're one of those people posting, why is Cinemark doing so good, and you haven't looked into their balance sheet and their finances, then you are just screaming into the void. Go spend some time doing some DD.
As ours.
Right, and I want to say, like I've already said, I don't own any Cinemark at all. I own AMC, so that's just where I'm at right now. But I'll play any stock. I don't give a shit what the ticker symbol is. To me, it doesn't matter. If I can make money, and I trade stocks, I trade equities. I don't care, But I have. I've had AMC for so long, and I've studied it for so long. I have a good understanding of the movie industry and what's going to happen. To me, I find it a little easier for me to invest, especially in AMC, than any other company.
I think mediocre, it's easier for us because we've paid so much attention every day for the last 2 years to AMC. It's easier for us to estimate what is likely to happen with the price action than Cinemark because we just don't follow it, right?
Right, exactly. So, but I wanted to know why Cinemark is trading at $14 and AMC is at $5. Like that shit would piss me off. Like I know it pisses you guys off. So that's why I was doing the research into it. Not, that I think Cinemark is a better company than AMC. I don't think that. I just think that they have different financial situation than AMC.
And I'm going to close this out so we don't go down a rabbit hole. If you're one of the people crying on social media, why is it doing better on any given day? Go look at the financials and try and understand it, and then it will make sense. There's logical answers to everything. They're just in a different financial position than AMC. AMC is a high risk, high reward play when the box office increases. Cinemark's a little more stable play. It's not going to have as much of a chance for price appreciation from the current level as AMC when the box office increases.
I want to hear what Wade has to say, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
So mediocre wanted to know about like sentiment, right? Like for me, I see like I saw like a month or two ago, right? When we finally got over the strike, I thought, okay, we're actually going to be like what is it? Bunkering down for like a long winter, right? That like it's not. I don't consider anything to be really positive until Q3, Q4, because at least 6 months past the strike, because that's how long the strike was, another question I have to ask you, just a hypothetical, because it's kind of interesting, right? If Cinemark's balance sheet or their earnings and also their EPS and everything looks better, right? Why does Fintel say that? Why would the short interest be 26%?
Exactly. Why? I don't know. That's an excellent question.
It's a very interesting like optical thing. If they're in a better position, why are shorts supposedly shorting it more?
Yeah, I'd love it. If this wasn't an AMC call and we weren't going to offend people, I'd love to have a discussion about that. But maybe a different call. We'll talk about that.
But Tony, it relates to AMC because this is why I'm glad you brought that up. It relates to AMC because is it got 26% short? Now I don't know this to be true, but I think about is this why? Is it because they don't think that they're going to be able to pay their debt because they don't believe in the movie theater industry anymore? Like they think the box office is going to fail?
I think the shorts mediocre think that at $14, Cinemark is overpriced. That's what I think.
Yeah.
So for all the people complaining, why is it so high? The shorts agree with you. They're trying to drive the price down. So,
but why aren't they? I mean, the institutional ownership have a reason for that, or
yeah, it's mostly
why aren't they driving the price down?
It's mostly institutional owned.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about Cinemark, other than once a quarter I'll go in and look at their earnings. All right, Mihul, Adam's biggest fan, got his hand up. What's up, amigo? Hey, there you go. What's up,
I
Mihul?
know. What's up? Sorry, I was talking to my wife. So, yeah.
How you doing? This guy sees more movies than just about anybody I know.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. But actually, to be honest with you, there are some who beat me with the number of movies. Believe it or not.
I saw that. A few, very few though, Mihul.
Yeah, that is true. But AMC and Cinemark, right? Just forget about Cinemark, even Regal. There is no comparison of AMC with any other company, okay? Any other that entertainment industry, right? Why? Okay, Cinemark. Do they have the credit card? Answer is no. Okay. What about the popcorn in the grocery store? Maybe, yeah, but who is buying it? Nobody. What about the candy? Do they produce their own candy? No. Do they listen? Do they listen to their shareholder for the ideas? No. I mean, nobody even care. I don't even know who is invested in Cinemark or if they have any call. But dude, AMC is the best. Okay. There are so many people, so many new ways that we are making money, right? Lately, like in a year or two, we have improved so much. We have HYMC, so gold, that's the safety with the economy. We also have merchandise, right? Which we were not doing before. Now we are doing from last 1 year and we are doing amazing. So many sold outs, so many popcorn. Amazon sold out multiple times in the same weekend. Walmart, even before opening the boxes were gone for the popcorn. With the candy, now we are making our own candy and we are making more money. And we are the distributor. Is anybody else out there who is distributor too? So, all these short interest and self-reporting and everything, I think it's all something that need to be fixed, right? But is AMC the only which may fix? I don't know. And I don't even know if it will be fixed or not, right? But logically, think about this. Okay, forget about all the financial, forget about the numbers, forget about the stock price. But think about this. The company who has improved so much in last 2 years, the share price is $4, and company who did not do anything is $15 in the same industry. Does that make sense logically? Nope. Cool. So when I'm able to buy at $4, all I see is like we keep doing better and better, right? We have given AMC management more than 3,500 ideas. And we are seeing so many ideas getting implemented too, right? So there are so many opportunities to save money or make more money based on those ideas. And not only those, but also the management is superb, you know. Which company, we have you seen any other CEO interacting with the shareholder? Sometimes I feel like some crying babies are using or misusing and then trying to attack CEO Adam only because he was open to us on Twitter. Have you seen Elon Musk talk about his stock or reply to the shareholders saying like, hey guys, what do you think about this? Let's do vote on the Twitter. No, nobody does that, right? Have you seen the CEO of GME doing anything like that? No, right? And that is the best combination. Number one, we are the shareholders. Number two, we are the owners. Number three, we are the customers who are using our own product, right? So we can make the company as strong as we want. Yes, numbers, whether that's share price, self-reporting, or the short interest, I think all of that is manipulated. And they manipulate the number only to play with the emotions of retail. Okay, but answer me the simple question. I'm not technical, but I at least understand if shorts are covering and closing their position, logically price go up, right? I believe, yes. So I haven't seen AMC price going up based on covering any short or closing any short. And also, they were shorting. We just came in 2021, right? But there are so many people who were shorting, not people, but institutions, right? Who were trying to get AMC go bankrupt from 2013 or 15. So they were shorting so heavily. And when it came like 2021 and this COVID thing happened, they were like, this is the golden opportunity for us. Let's do it, you know, and let's go crazy. And share price went to what? $2, right? Even less than $2 for a while.
All right,
And
Mehul,
then,
Mehul,
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
trying to keep people that come up on the panel to about 1 minute to get a point across. I think everyone appreciates your thoughts. We all agree with you that there are a lot of revenue streams and future potential good things for AMC, but we also need AMC being so large needs the box office to go up. But yes, we all agree. Most of us agree.
Then let me wrap up. I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off.
The
since you are
company is
host as well.
positioned. The company's positioned very positively if the box office goes up.
Got you. Let me wrap it up, okay?
All right.
And at the end, I just wanted to say, box office is not the only thing that we do. We do so many other things, and we make money from that too.
But
so
but Mehul, those are included in the last 3 quarters, and it is what it is.
Not the popcorn number. Not the popcorn number.
Absolutely, they are. Absolutely.
Nope.
You don't.
Not the popcorn number from the grocery store.
Sure, they are.
I don't think so.
Absolutely. Nope. Once you realize income, it goes on the income statement. There's no magic box where they're holding income where they're going to drop it in Q4. When they realize the income, it goes on the income statement.
I don't think they were there, but we will see it soon.
You know, go talk to a CPA.
The Q4 will come soon, so we'll see. Thanks for the time and letting me speak, bro.
Friend.
I appreciate it.
Cynic, what's up?
I am glad that you brought up that the popcorn revenue from retail stores is already recognized on the balance.
Without question.
Just because they didn't break it out as a specific line item, and you can speculate as to why that would be.
How do you guys know if they did not?
Because it's basic accounting. It's basic accounting.
Okay, we'll see.
When revenue comes in, you have to recognize it on the quarterly statement. There's no hiding income and saving it for later.
Unless you believe that they are breaking the law, it's on the income statement, Mehul. Do you think they're breaking the law?
We will see. All right.
Mehul, find a CPA that you trust, Mehul, because you don't want to believe what knowledgeable people here are trying to convey to you. Go find someone you trust that is a CPA and ask them your question.
We will see.
I would like to also address, so yes, Adam, Aaron,
A comment on that though, Mehul, you wouldn't even know at this point.
We will
I was going to ask. I was going to ask earlier that essentially, you're not going to see line of business numbers.
You are the one who came up with that Viagra idea on the AMC idea, right? Nice job, man.
Viagra. Yeah, absolutely. AMC branded Viagra.
Yes. You know what? I don't have time to waste with you, so I'm going to leave this call. Bye-bye. You can keep trying.
No, I was going to say that we don't see the line of business totals because there's no way right now that Adam Aaron would say how much credit cards make or how much popcorn makes or how much beer makes, because this is in my opinion. Those are just PR, marketing, is promotional lines of businesses that they're opening up, and just the fact that they are sold out, quote unquote sold out, doesn't, like, when you don't know the supply side of the equation and how much they're actually producing or trying to put into the market, like it's all speculation. Like you cannot attribute any revenue to a specific number to even really say, okay, yeah, this is a successful revenue stream.
Right.
Like we're calling it revenue stream.
I think it's safe to say I think it's safe to say if you're bullish on AMC, you're happy that they have all these new potential revenue streams. You anticipate them growing. And besides that, any revenue that already came in was on previous quarterly statements. There's zero debate about that from anyone who has any accounting education or a friend that's a CPA. Cynic, go ahead.
Yeah, agreed.
Mehul really talked up Adam Aaron's engagement on social media with shareholders, and I don't think that, at face value,
you're up.
He's talking, but he's real quiet. Cynic, maybe bring the mic closer to your mouth or something. It's just your volume is a lot lower than everybody else.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
All right. I'm like right on top of the microphone. So what I was saying is that while a CEO engaging with shareholders in good faith is a good thing, you have to sort of look at, I don't know, the product of that and show me the money, right? It does not intrinsically generate value for the company. And as of yet, it has not translated to anything on the balance sheet. In fact, I would argue that a lot of his engagement with shareholders is kind of like pumpery, right? He is talking about things that a lot of forward-looking statements that do not translate to actual realized revenues. It's not a good look.
I have a different way of saying it, and I've said this many times in the past. The CEO's job is to market the company, and that includes marketing it to investors, and that includes retail investors, and that is a lot of what Adam Aaron's done over the last 2 years. So a nicer way of saying what you said. Whisperer, go ahead.
No, we discussed Adam Aaron's talking or not talking to shareholders a lot of times in our spaces, and it's a lot less of Adam Aaron these days because of the attacks that happen. And so now he gets attacked for not talking, and when he does talk, he gets attacked for talking.
He's in a no-win situation.
Right. So we take it for what we get. As far as the products that are coming out, if they're sold, if there's a transaction that happens, it's included on the balance sheet. But I think what we're just talking about is the full onslaught, the full outlay of the popcorn to all the stores, not just the Walmart, is what we're talking about. Yeah, and then when the chocolates go out to everybody, not just in the theaters, is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see those product lines ramp up. I'm as excited as Mehul is.
I want to
Right.
have a
We don't
conversation
know.
about Adam Aaron real quick.
Well, let me just finish here. We don't know whether the beer and the wine is going to be in theater or in stores, but we pretty much have agreed that it's going to be at least initiated in the theaters. So we're waiting for all of that stuff to hit stores, and that may take a little bit of time. But in the meantime, we're going to hit it when it does come out.
Every single idea
So.
that they execute on is evidence that they're not trying to go bankrupt, that they're trying to implement additional revenue streams, additional ways to profit besides just selling popcorn and Coke. So it's all good. Everything that they're doing is good.
Yeah, I appreciate what they're doing with the company and the revenue streams. I agree with that. But prior to conversion reverse split, going down that road and doing all the due diligence that we did, I come to realize that I really don't give a flying shit what Adam Aaron says. I'll pay attention to what he says, but I take it with a grain of salt. I don't let him affect what I'm trying to do. And I think that's, people get too hung up on Adam Aaron and he did this to retail or he did that, or, he's the best CEO or he's not. I have my own opinion of him, which I'm really not going to talk about. I personally just don't pay him no mind. I pay attention to what he does, what he says. Doesn't really mean much to me.
He's pretty much falling back into the normal CEO slot is what's happening, because most CEOs don't engage.
I pay attention more to what he says on the earnings call with analysts than anything else.
Right, that's normal CEO stuff.
That's just me. And in fact, I was rereading the transcripts today from Q2 and Q3 phone calls, earnings calls. There's so many nuggets in there in those earnings calls where you can kind of read between the lines of what they're thinking, what they're worried about, and what they're planning on doing. More so than any day-to-day tweet that he might put out. And I've never been a big fan of trying to decode tweets from any CEO.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree with you, Tony. You know that. I know what he did, and I can understand why there's retail that don't like him, and there's retail that do like him. I see both sides of it, and I just think it's irrelevant. Just pay attention to what's going on, and with the corporate actions and such.
The thing to say that you can like about him is he's, from my observation, taking the necessary steps to prevent the company from going bankrupt. But at the same time, some people could say, well, I don't like him because of that. I don't like him because he's diluting. I don't like him, because he pushed ape on us and then converted it. So valid points if you don't like him for that. But on the flip side, he was doing that to prevent the company from running out of liquidity, from running out of cash. Especially, they're very good at forecasting 2 years out. They knew with the strike in 2023 that 2024 was going to be a rough year, that all of those projects got pushed into 2025.
He was also, oops, sorry.
No, you're good.
I thought there was a pause, so I jumped in.
Go ahead.
He did what he had to do for the company. I get that. Okay, I know what he did. You have to understand what he did. Do I like what he did? Absolutely not. But what's done is done. It's water under the bridge. We have to keep looking forward, and it's our job to take care of our portfolios, and that's how I look at it. It is what it is.
Right. He didn't pocket it. He didn't pocket it. He didn't, I don't want to say, well, I don't know. It didn't go in his pocket. Let's just put it that way. It went to improving revenue streams. It went to paying down debt. It went to running the business, making improvements, selling theaters that were no longer profitable, and buying new ones and upgrading. Typical CEO business. All right. And that's how I look at it. And I was very critical when I came into this play about it. So.
Thank you for that. Weight loss, go ahead.
Well, I mean, you don't have to answer this. This is just a question. If APE and the conversion hadn't been proposed, hypothetically, would you have been open to a vote where we do get dilution without that whole thing? Because otherwise the company would have gone bankrupt.
I mean, they couldn't dilute anymore because they were out of authorized shares.
No, what I'm saying is if there was a vote on new authorized shares. Without the whole APE and conversion and reverse split.
Would I have been open to voting for it? Yes, because I could read the writing on the wall that they were going to run out of cash. Yeah. But I think that I don't think that AMC thought that the bulk of retail investors would approve that. That's what I think. Why did they do the APE? Because they were fearful that if they just said, we want to increase outstanding shares so we can dilute you more, people would have voted it down.
Yeah. And the thing is, you have to look at it from what a short would do, right? That's the other thing. People need to look at both sides. If we didn't do the APE thing, we were going to get shorted to oblivion anyways. And they would have totally collected on that. The only ones who made money after we hit $70 was shorts, right? They made a fuck ton of money, people. And you have to acknowledge that. Now, did I want them to make that money? Absolutely fucking not. But they did, and that would have happened. Would I have voted for some sort of dilution to get cash on the balance sheet for survival? Absolutely, because I want to protect my position, and going to zero is not an option. You lose everything. And I know some people are like, well, it was zero or hero for me. I get it. Some people were like that, okay? But I had a substantial amount of money, and I have a family to think about, and my logic was never that.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot, Mediocre. I was zero for hero. I'm mad that you supported the company diluting so they could raise cash and survive. I'm not holding any position to zero. You can forget about that. So you guys need to allow, those of you that are mad that someone's not zero for hero, you need to allow that this is a large group of individual investors with different goals and different ideas, and everyone has a valid right to their opinion. Doesn't mean that we're paid by AMC or paid by hedge funds. We're individuals doing our own financial analysis for our own families and for our own selves. Dr. Paul?
Tony, no, sorry.
Let's let Dr. Paul get in here for a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was well said. I mean, everybody is just, that's one of the things that kind of like just I mean, for lack of a better term, it's just, things get a little cultish, and then that term shill gets thrown around left and right. And in reality, it's like what you said, it's a lot of individual people who just have possibly differing opinions. But I do want to caution, I'm all about like things that make revenue for the company. I think that that's smart, but I want to caution anybody making their investment decisions on an unseen revenue line that you have zero idea what sales or revenue is generated by that revenue line. You can see the box office. You can see in general what AMC should be bringing in based on their theaters in terms of revenue. You see none of that with popcorn. You see none of it with credit cards. You see none of it with any of these other business lines. You won't see it. So I would caution anyone to be thinking that it is automatically a net positive revenue stream for the business. That businesses, create and spin up business lines all the time, and all the time they're deciding whether or not they're actually profitable to the business or not. So, I'm not saying one way or the other that it is, but I'm just exercising caution. Like, don't automatically think because you see popcorn getting sold out in a theater that it's making money for AMC and generating actual net profit to pay down debt. Like, don't assume that. I'm just telling you.
That's a fair statement. And I've said that before, not maybe to that detail, but I have said in just about every earnings video that I've done, there's a reason I don't talk about popcorn or credit cards, because I think if there is profit there, it's so minimal that they don't even break it out. That's my view on it. If it was something to brag about, they'd be breaking it out. That I'm still bullish on them over the long term as they ramp it up, that every extra dollar counts, but we don't know what those dollars are. We don't know what the cost associated to the startup of those product lines were, or if they're, past the break-even point, as you're alluding to, right, Dr. Paul?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I agree. I think I'm a conservative investor. I'm a conservative analyzer of the financials, and you're not going to hear me putting out $1 billion price targets on popcorn when Adam Aron's saying himself that at the end game, when we fully ramp up, we're going to bring in 100 million of revenue. So I've got to downrate that substantially, considering they're only in year one of popcorn and they're not fully ramped.
So, Tony, we have a request for Dan to speak. I kind of want to give him an opportunity to, I don't know, but I'd like to hear what he has to say.
You want to bring him up, or do you want me to?
Let's hear what he has to say. Dan, you're up.
I guess I'll just put my hand down.
Oh, no, you could, we'll get to you.
We'll get back to you.
I want it. Dan, go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks. Yeah, so as it relates to the popcorn revenue, do you, when you look at the balance sheet, would you think that whatever revenues generated from there would be in the food and beverage line item? Or
we don't know if it's in food and beverage or other, Dan. That's a good question.
All right, so the only thing I would say about that, and I agree, like, we don't know the specific report outs of credit card, retail popcorn. But the one thing that I look at is, if you look at the best domestic box office year, and I think we all agree we got to get more people in the theaters, right, for AMC to thrive. But if you look at 2018, which was the best year for domestic box office, around 11.9 billion.
Yep.
That's roughly 3 billion less than what we did in 2023. After we report fourth quarter 23 earnings, our food and beverage is going to be right around what the food and beverage revenue number was in the best domestic box office. So what I am hoping for, and what I think is, once we get back to pre-COVID levels, even if we get back to a $10 billion box office, what do you think that food and beverage line item is going to look like? So I don't believe these are PR stunts. I believe, yes, I do agree that popcorn probably was reported already, but what you can't argue is the food and beverage line item. And if we're going to have the same total food and beverage revenue in 2023 as we did in 2018, which was the biggest year for the theater industry in terms of box office, that you can't really look away from. And if anything, I will give credit. There's a lot of things I'll give credit to AMC for, but what they've done with food and beverage, and I think we'll all agree that's where the profit is made at this company. You can't look away from that, and you have to applaud that. So that's just my, and this is numbers. This is not speculation. Just all you got to do is look at the balance sheets from probably the best year they had in 2018 to 2023.
And
that food and beverage. Yep, go ahead.
Adam talked about that in a recent earnings call. I forget if it was Q2 or Q3, but he was calling out that the food and beverage dollars spent per patron was up $5. And he said, very explicitly that, this is where we make our money, on popcorn, food, and beverage. And that is a huge incremental increase. So you're bringing up a great point.
Yeah. So I don't know what the number is. Let's say we had 400 million less moviegoers in 2023 than in 2018. I mean, I don't know what the math is on that, but I guarantee you the food and beverage number is going to skyrocket because we're hitting that same number when the box office was at its peak for food and beverage. So that's just my thoughts here.
My spreadsheet.
I knew.
Yeah.
My spreadsheet.
I knew you were going to say that, Dan. That's why I said I was going to put my hand down. I knew you were going to go there.
My spreadsheet says that if we have a 10.5 billion domestic box office, the AMC will bring in almost 2 billion on food and beverage. That's huge.
Say it again. You think if the domestic box office
was 10.5 billion in the U.S. and Canada, that would bring in about 3.1 billion for admissions and almost 2 billion in food and beverage.
Yeah. Just using some math, based on the revenue AMC brings in for box office, the food and beverage is roughly anywhere from 60 to 65% of that. So that's kind of how I kind of do my projections.
Yep. That's right in line.
Is that in line with what you got? Yeah.
I use 61, but I adjust it every quarter depending on what the previous quarter looked like. But yeah, 60 to 65 is in the ballpark. Absolutely.
That's what it was for 2023. First quarter was like 61.5. Second quarter was like 65, and then third quarter dropped down to like 60. But yeah. So with that being said, that's the number that. But as we know, it's all relative. We have to continue to grow the box. The box office has to grow because all these numbers work in tandem with each other. So, my hope. Just one last comment. We all know first quarter. This past month, February, we just got to ride it out right now. The strikes obviously had more significance than we had hoped and thought. But, we just got to get to the summer. I feel like if we can keep the box office somewhat relative to where we were this time last year, I think we're going to be okay.
Now that we're in February, I haven't looked at January box office, but it came in at 495 million.
Yeah, roughly about 90 million short of January last year. February of 23 was only 500 million. So we got to see how these movies do. I'm March. I'm hoping we kind of catch up in March, which is no guarantee, but I'm hoping that Dune overperforms. And then we got a few other blockbusters coming out in March. So yeah, we just gotta, things really start to pick up with the box office. I think starting June, July, we just gotta keep things relatively close and hope we can make up for it on the back end.
Yep.
Thanks for letting me up.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Bob Marley movie too. I don't know how many people are excited about that one. And Dune, I don't even know what the forecast is for that movie, but Bob Marley One Love comes out on February 14th. I'm looking at the calendar here. And then Dune also, they're doing some re-release on the first Dune in February. And
Dan, thanks for coming up.
Dune Part 2, March 1st. Well, that's good. We'll have the whole month of March to get Dune numbers in.
So, Tony, the Bad Ape's going to come up and speak as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. He always got good shit to say, so just waiting for him. He's doing something at the moment. Let me see. What we
I'm
got.
going to step down at this time myself. I appreciate you letting me up.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Are you a Bob Marley fan, Mediocre?
Some of the songs I like, yeah.
He's got an interesting story. His life story. Kung Fu Panda 4. We got Kung Fu Panda 4 coming out on March 8th. I don't know. I have no idea how popular that's going to be. But for people looking to take their kids to a movie, there'll be that. And what else we got in March? I was looking at some theaters when Dune's coming out, Mediocre. They like have every auditorium on Dune 2 that opening weekend. They're not even showing another movie. That's how big they're expecting it to be. That is how fucking big.
Wait, sorry, I was at the store. What was the big one?
Dune 2. I was just looking around in my area on opening weekend. I was seeing some theaters have their entire building just showing Dune 2 all day. No other movies.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that one's probably the most exciting.
How long we gotta wait for Bad Ape?
I don't know. A couple minutes. He's taking notes.
I need a good Ricky Bobby movie.
Yeah, man, I'd love to see some more Ricky Bobby.
Ain't nothing wrong with that guy. You said 3 minutes, Tony.
All right. What else you want to talk about for 3 minutes? Anybody else? Anyone else got a question they want to come up? Don't be shy. Just be an adult. Be an adult in your ability to communicate.
We got somebody. Let's see.
Amazon's at the door.
Screech Power. Screech, I just approved you to come up and speak. Your mic is muted.
I'll be right back, Mediocre. I'm gonna grab my package before the neighborhood thieves do.
That's a good idea. Go ahead, Screech. You got the floor on mute. It says he's connecting.
I'm looking at April movies. Civil War is April 12th. I'm looking forward to that one too. Although Kirsten Dunst is the headline actor in that film. That's the only name I recognize. But the movie trailer looked really good. I feel like this movie is is almost foreshadowing for what this country is about to go through.
Oh boy.
I wouldn't mind a little Civil War action. I mean, I probably would, but you know, you never know. It could be kind of fun, like The Purge.
Yeah, right.
Like that. You never know. There could be some like devious fantasies.
We got
that people.
The Fall Guy on May
quiet.
3rd with Ryan Gosling. I don't know how many of y'all remember the Fall Guy TV show. That one could be fun.
Wait, which one?
The Fall Guy.
Oh yeah, Fall Guy.
Who was the
Lee Majors? Lee Majors, the $6 million man.
Yeah. Hopefully they did a good job on that movie because that was entertaining show back in its day. May 10th, we got Kingdom of the Planets of the Ape. Garfield movie for the kids. We got the Garfield movie on May 24th. Yeah, not a ton other than Dune. Not anything I see that's going to be like a $1 billion potential. But a lot of good, there are a lot of good movies. I'd like to see more. Like, I'm looking through this list. I'm like, not a ton jumping out at me where I'm going to be able to go see 3 movies a week of something I really want to see. But then it gets better as we go into the second half of the year.
Adam did say that.
Yep. I'm gonna check.
I'm ready to see Dumb Money 2, the AMC edition.
I saw somebody post that. That was funny. Annual box office on the numbers. Let's see. Box office projection for 2024 based on current data. Holy shit. This number's so low, I'm not even gonna say it.
I hope somebody's documenting the history of the AMC squeeze.
I'm sure there's a historian out there somewhere documenting it daily, Mediocre. Man, on the numbers.com, under box office annual, they've got a graph, and it's not showing 9 billion for their anticipated 2024 numbers. Oh well, that's why we're here, though, right? To talk about properly set expectations for this year, because this is going to be a year of emotions, struggle, patience, and understanding why things are happening.
Yep. And when you understand, you can put yourself in a better position, I think.
When I understand and have a good idea what I'm facing, then I can sleep at night and not be all emotional, not be crying on Twitter, and set myself up for, the proper mental state. And also understand why the company's doing what they're doing. All right, Bad Ape is in the house with his AMC coffee cup. Is that what that is?
You gotta unmute. You're muted. You have speaker role. Tony, give him co-host if you can. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
I'm going to bring up philanthropy also while we're waiting on Bad Ape. Go ahead, philanthropy. Take yourself off mute.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
All right, philanthropy, wait, and Bad Ape, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Tony?
We can hear you.
Okay, so, hey everybody, Bad Ape. Some people know me as Steven. Here's my thing with AMC. I've been in this a long time. I don't really care about your beliefs about AA or Squeeze or Ape or any of that. The way I look at AMC is I care about where the price is today and where you can make money going forward. At the end of the day, we're in the market to make money. I want to see everyone win. I know it's not possible, kind of like what Mediocre was saying. But what I do know is this: AMC is oversold, and that can't be debated. If you look back on the weekly, like if you guys look at charts, I mean, this thing's more oversold than the bottom of the COVID pandemic when they had no movies and zero revenue. I know it's been hard years, but does it justify that, right? To me, it doesn't. I think that spells opportunity. In my view, there's 3 ways this price goes up. obviously AMC's got to get an analyst upgrade at some point. Some analysts, they've been fairly nice to us, like Tony talked about Moody, Webbush, B. Riley. We need some of those guys to really come on our side. And I think as the year progresses, we're going to get more movies in May. And I think you're going to get an analyst upgrade. People start looking at the stock, the smart money. We've talked about in our discords, like the revolving credit increasing. I'm hoping, I think Mediocre and Tony would agree that that should occur sometime around earnings, before earnings, even better. I know that's the covenant, I believe, is due March 31st. We need to see their revolving debt increase. That would give them some flexibility. And obviously you have unexpected good news. That's going to make AMC go up. But to me, the big punch is this. You need an upgrade, you need some flexibility, and you need a hedge fund to believe in this fucking stock. End of story. Somebody needs to come in and believe. And that gets to my next point. If I use a variety of tools like Mediocre and Tony, and I've noticed that there's clear outweighing of a strong accumulation of buying from institutions. I just saw a filing the other day. It was the California pension system. They recently increased 202%. And it's a lot. I mean, going from 87,000 shares to 260,000 shares. So I think these guys, they're not swing trading it. They just know value when they see it. And I think that's what makes you a good trader, is seeing value before others. And I'm seeing smart money start to accumulate it. In my opinion, the all-time low will be in before May of this year, because if any look at the box office, you can see that the box office really starts to ramp up by May. And I think Adam alluded to that in his last tweet. He said the writer strike screwed us up for the early 24. He didn't say it screwed us up for 24. So in my view, the market's unfairly pricing in AMC at $4 as if the writer strikes are still happening, which they're not. Filming is underway. There's more titles coming. And I think the overall projections are inaccurate from Wall Street. I think that if you want a real interpretation of the box office, you should be paying attention to Hollywood and Deadline.com, Box Office Mojo, the people who actually understand the box, because you can get a more accurate estimate, on the box office. So in my view, if you guys have faith in this now, I mean, you're not going to most likely get this price December or onward, because at some point it's just going to rebound. It's a guarantee that Adam Aaron gets his movies. It's not a guarantee that you get a MOAS or you get anything else, but it's a guarantee this guy's going to get his movies and he's going to get his money, right?
You think he's working to bring some movies earlier into 2024, Stephen, like if he can?
What I'll say is this. Adam is clearly very closely tied to Hollywood. He just seems to be at the places. He's always taking pictures in Hollywood. He probably has Tom Cruise's phone number. He's working really close with the CEOs of HBO. So he probably knows ahead of time exactly where he's going to be. But most of the people on this call, they're looking at it from a trading perspective. So it's like, do you really think it's going to go to $1 or $2? It's at $4, you're pretty much looking at a golden opportunity, as long as there's no COVID, right? Or something that drives people out of theaters. And most forecasts are saying $7, $9, $10. You're still talking about 150% gain. And I know a lot of people want the 9,000% gain, but this is a game of survival. AMC is trying to survive, but you as a shareholder, you owe that to yourself, that your portfolio needs to survive, right? So, I mean, at $4, man, like, don't be that trader where you don't want it at 4, but you want it at 40, right? Like, you gotta look at it objectively.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say.
Stephen, I don't know if how much more downside there is, and I know that we were all nervous it dropped below $4, and I see people posting on Twitter, oh, it dropped below 4, therefore it's definitely going to 350 next week. Maybe it is, but.
But it closed at what, Tony?
It closed at 401. But what I do know, wherever it bottoms out at, what I do know is that at some point later this year, Stephen, there's somebody going to be buying at 7, 8, 10, whatever, like we were talking about on the phone call earlier, the Discord.
Yeah.
And saying, wish I would have bought more at 4 or 3.
Well, everybody says that after the fact, but they don't do it during, right? It's like think about it when it was at 65 cents. Like nobody wanted it. I remember it was dead in the water, and then boom, press release, and all of a sudden it 3x'd, right? So it's like, guys, you got to think of it like this: you're 1 year away from possibly hitting pre-pandemic revenue. That's almost a guarantee. Now, profits is different. That's a whole different game, but revenue is fairly certain, in my view, by middle of next summer if you take a look at the slate. But you ask yourself this: do you really think you're going to get $4 in December of this year? Or you got to be a little more forward thinking when it comes to the market. That's how you ensure your success. It's all about entry.
I'm looking forward, Stephen, to the end of the year, but I'm also paranoid about next week. And I say next week just like as a placeholder. Like I'm always a little bit paranoid. Like, how much more are they going to attack us? Or is Adam really done with dilution? Or
what I would say to you is, do you believe that the worst has already occurred? Because I do. I don't believe that it will be much worse.
As we've talked about, I kind of do a probability analysis, and that way I leave myself a little room to be wrong, right? But I think if I'm looking at probabilities, he's probably done diluting for now, and he's probably done with the debt for equity swaps, because my DD is that he was doing that to spiff up the Q4 numbers. So I think he's done. Now, could I be wrong Monday morning? Sure, I could be wrong on either one. But that's my DD. That's how I'm playing it. That's why I was buying around the I think 420 is the cheapest price that I bought in at. And I mean, I might still
but
have
that's all you can do, Tony, is
I might
probability,
still have to buy
right?
some at 3 if it falls, but because I don't know how low it's going to go. But
that's all we have at the end of the day is probability, right? It's more probable that Adam gets his movies and gets his revenue per patron and all the finances up, right?
We lost you, Bad Ape. All right, let's give him a second. Philanthropy, go ahead. Mr. Philanthropy DD. Take your mute off if you still want to speak. Dr. Paul, go ahead. Can you guys hear me? Is it my Twitter app that's buggy now? Those in the YouTube chat. All right, it says reconnect. I think my app
doesn't have analysts capable of looking at the things that need to be looked at, as if that we were going to have special knowledge, being outside of Wall Street and not be professionals. So, I mean, I would say that that's just, I don't think that that's the case. I think that there are quite a lot of people on both sides of the equation, possibly, even from an analyst perspective. So, like to say that Wall Street doesn't see what's going to happen, I think is pretty short-sighted, knowing how much money they have at their disposal to hire as many
What's up,
analysts
Paul?
as they
Can you hear
want.
me?
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I should clarify, Paul. They do see it kind of like what you're saying. I just think that they're not giving it a fair shake, in my view. I think the numbers are a little harsh. Like the numbers they're projecting for AMC, in my view, is as if the writer's strike is still happening and as if filming is still being paused. That's kind of what I'm saying. So I feel like the industry expectations for AMC are too low, and that's what's caused the price to also come down. But I think AMC in 2025 especially is going to blow those expectations out of the water. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
So you think that it's only a one-sided view that they're taking, that they're only looking at it from the writer's strike perspective as opposed to taking a look at it from their debt position, for example?
Correct. I think they're overvaluing how bad the writer's strike actually hurt. I mean, don't get me wrong, it did hurt, but I don't think it hurt to the point where AMC should be $4 a share.
Well, I mean, I think honestly, we're talking share price. I mean, valuation, and thinking about what's the worst that could happen. Like you do have to have a little bit of faith that the bottom is in at 4, like to not believe that another reverse split could come if dilution was needed, or they were in a position where they needed, just like what Tony was saying that they did in Q4, padding the balance sheets a little bit to try and create a little bit better picture. If they do another dilution like that, I mean, honestly, I mean, why would anyone? I mean, yeah, it sounds great, like to just look at it as, oh, it's only $4 a share, but yeah, well, $4 a share. What was it when the Taylor Swift announcement was made?
14.
I mean, it was like $12, $13, $14, and here we are at 4. So who would have even believed that when they're talking about becoming a distributor of films, and quite possibly the biggest ever concert film coming? I don't know. I'm a little worried about that kind of thinking, that like it can only go up. Like that's what got a lot of buy and holders into the position that they're in, is that they think, oh, it can only go up. Like when they're buying in at after the squeeze, they're buying in at $30 thinking, oh, it can only go up. Like
right.
That's what
Paul,
gets people into position.
That's true. It depends on the
so
person.
I do appreciate
right?
the way that Tony's done the space and more of a trading view. I mean, well, you can talk about fundamental investing all you want, but if another reverse split came, I mean, people are getting crushed again, and getting 1/10 of what they just put in at $4, thinking the bottom's in. So that's all I'm saying.
Well, every person's different, right? Like some people have. I have a buddy who just bought today or the other day. He has a $4 cost average, and there's some people with a $400 cost average, right? So like everybody views this play from the moment they entered the play. Right.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. That's why there's so many fights in this community, is because people only view it from when they bought. It's just the truth. And that's for every other stock. So depending on where you're at, in my view, I'm not going to go into detail, but there's a risk to that, right? The higher the price goes, the higher the risk. And in this case with AMC, I mean, I'm being optimistic. I think that the bottom is in. The reason is because the guy diluted retail twice, ATM. He pretty much sapped them, right? Let's call it what it is. And then he did debt for equity for 12 million shares. So someone out there, in my view, believes in AMC enough to hold 12 million shares. Could they have sold them? Maybe. But obviously somebody's helping Adam Aaron, right? We don't know who that person is. It's hidden in the filings. And if people help Adam, and Adam can show big money that the box office is going to come back, it's not going to go bankrupt, and they're not going to have to do another reverse split. And it doesn't help anybody to think that a reverse split's going to happen, because he still has, mediocre 300 million
300
shares?
million.
Yeah, so
the whole reverse split thing is just...
Yeah, to insinuate that a reverse split's going to happen, in my view, is just, you're not respecting that the guy has 300 million shares to use. Now, if the float was maxed at the authorized amount, you could say that, but in this case, he doesn't have to. He's got $1 billion on the balance sheet. He can hold through 24. I would, Paul, I would like to hear Adam say these words. Hey guys, we just got an analyst upgrade. Hey, we just increased our revolving utilization on our balance sheet, so our finances are good to go. And guess what? No more dilution for 2024. Do you know what that would do to the stock price? Just those 3 sentences alone would, in my view, substantially increase the stock price. Right now, people are terrified because all they've seen is the price go down, like what you're talking about. But a lot of that is due to ATMs, because he had to create the ape, right? He had to do all these things, unfortunately. And I got hurt from some of it too. luckily, me, Mediocre, Tony, a lot of these guys are savvy and we're able to trade our way through it, but it has been a rough ride. Paul, my idea, though, essentially is this. I think the worst has already occurred for the most part. We could get some headwinds here and there, but if you really look at the box office, as long as there's no additional writer strike or additional COVID, how can you really lose at $4? Like that's the argument I want to know. How do you lose at $4?
I think the only way you lose at $4 is if there's more planned dilution in the short term. So then you got to ask yourself, do you think there is or not? And if you do, why?
Right.
If you do think there is it because you're just negative? Is it because you're ignoring that they have $1 billion on the balance sheet and they're not going to burn through that this year? Why do you think he's going to dilute more? Tell me your rationale.
And I'm not saying that he's
to
going
you, anyone.
to,
I'm saying to the people that are crying on social media every day. Why do you think he's going to dilute more?
Exactly, Tony. I'm trying to say, like, how can you say that there's more bad news on the way at this current point in time? Like, I understood that there would be more bad news in 22 because he was denied the vote, right? Or 21, he was denied the vote. Or 2023 when we went through the whole court shit. There's a lot of bad news surrounding that time, but that's different than 2024. Everything's different right now.
For me personally, it's losing a lot of faith in him. So, like, for us to say, okay, why would he do that? Well, why would he do a lot of the other things that he did, right? And we can say that it's all to keep the company afloat and make the company survive, but in the end, I mean, who really knows, right?
Well, that's absolutely what it was. There's no other
lose
logical
a lot of
reason.
faith in him.
If you look at the cash on the balance sheet and how it was being drawn down, there's no other logical answer about why he did what he did other than basic finance math. He had no choice.
You guys, I want to clear something up too, Tony. You hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're assuming there's $1 billion on the balance sheet because we did the math, right? But that hasn't been announced yet. So a lot of people don't even know that he has $1 billion on the balance sheet right now.
$1 billion minus whatever the Q4 cash burn is.
Right. People don't know that yet.
Cash burn was averaging like close to 200 per quarter.
In the worst quarters, yeah.
Wait, Tony, did you factor in the debt for equities as income in that statement?
That will affect the income statement. I'm talking about cash on the balance sheet.
Oh, I got you. Copy. Okay.
All right. Somebody came up to speak and they never got a chance.
Philanthropy DD.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna mute myself.
Oh yeah, it was just like about 15 minutes ago, Tony. You said something about you had the 2024 projections, but then you said you weren't going to read them because they were so bad, and then 15 seconds later was talking about how it's important to know the information to make an informed decision. So, I mean, I'm sure you were being tongue-in-cheek there, but what are the Q4 projections?
So Eric Wald from B. Riley, we talked about this at the beginning of the call. There is a article you can go read on deadline.com. He updated his 2024 box office projections. He had it at 8.6 billion, and he now said he thinks it's going to be between 8 billion and 8.4 billion. So that's the analyst numbers, right? A real human being. The numbers that I was referring to on the website, which is thenumbers.com, you can go look it up. It's the-numbers.com. So I use two websites to get a take on the industry, Box Office Mojo and thenumbers.com. They have a graph that updates every week. And based on where the box office is, their line that hits December will move up or down. And right now, because January is so bad, that line it's below 7 billion. But as we get more box office in through this year, that line can change. So I would believe B. Riley more than, before I would take a line chart on the numbers.com as any reliable projection.
Well, yeah, because I also wanted to ask how much of that were they factoring in the writer's strike? Because that was a 5-month pause roughly. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I don't know. They don't really go into the details of how on the numbers.com how they get their projection, but it does say it's based on data until week 4. So what that means to me is as more weeks come in, their line can change. You know what I'm saying? You start start getting stronger weeks, the angle of that line can start going up.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to take away from the conversation because we were talking about that like 15 minutes ago and then I had connection issues. So that's why I was going back to it. But that's all I was asking about.
Go look up Eric Wold, W-O-L-D. He's one of the analysts that covers AMC, or you can go to deadline.com and look up the article from this week.
All right, I'll check it out. Thanks.
All right.
Tony, when do you think, no wrong answers, when do you think analysts will start to take a second look at AMC this year?
I'm going to tell you what Markets with May told me, which was that she thinks, and I've shared this with you guys before, I think that she thinks that serious people that are thinking, institutions or committees that are debating whether or not to buy AMC will start looking at it, doing their analysis in the first couple quarters of this year to decide if they want to buy in later in the year. And that maybe some smaller entity that is more of a risk taker could be pulling the trigger before then.
Copy, thanks.
That's obviously, speculation.
Speculation.
This has been a great space. I appreciate you letting me speak.
We appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
I've been called a paid shill so many times, I don't know what to do with myself.
I get called a paid shill. I get paid by the hedge funds and paid by Adam Aaron multiple times per day. It's funny. Depending on who's listening.
You're working both sides.
Yeah, depending on who's listening, neither one of them like what I say. So everybody thinks I'm paid by somebody, but no, nobody pays me. These are all my own thoughts.
I mean, I know we talk about this a lot offline, but I really do think like those 4 things, Tony, an analyst upgrade, extension of credit, then you have maybe a possible refinance coming this year. If the rates become favorable, right, from the Fed, maybe AMC can push out some of their debt. And then obviously the big one, which is you need a big player to believe in AMC. I mean, it's obvious. In 2020, Mudrick came in, and then they came in again in 2021, and then Antara came in 22. So it shows that Adam has a history of working with hedge funds. Whether your opinion on that is, that's a whole nother world. But for the most part, he has a track record of using hedge funds to get the price up, right?
Yeah,
so
for anyone who hasn't listened to our other calls, when Stephen is talking about the extension, there's a March 31st deadline on the debt covenants. And typically before the earnings call, Adam has announced that they got an extension from the creditors on the covenants. So we're watching for that. We're watching for that every day.
Yeah, that's one of the things we are looking for.
That is important to me to see that they get the debt covenants extended. What does that mean? AMC is in violation of some of the debt covenants, and the lenders have agreed to forgive them for that by giving them a waiver of the debt covenant. For all of those that are saying, the company's trying to go bankrupt, why have the lenders given them waivers 13, 12 times? If they're trying to bankrupt the company, they could just say, F you, no waiver, we're foreclosing. So again, this whole mantra that the haters want to say that everyone Adam and the lenders and everyone's trying to bankrupt the company, the evidence does not stack up to agree with anything they're saying. If a lender wanted to bankrupt the company, they could just not extend the debt covenant. And they've done it 12 times.
Tony Screech is back and he requesting to speak. I want to give him a chance.
Go ahead, Screech.
And I just approved him. Give him a second.
Hey, Paul, it's okay. They think Grandpa Barney is AA undercover.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. It's his burner.
All right, Screech, the floor is yours.
Good job, AA.
Unmute when you got the floor. Try this for round 2.
My brother actually met the real Screech in real life and had a drink with him at a bar, just random encounter.
What's funny?
He said the guy was kind of an a-hole.
I want to know what's up with Greg.
Was that pre-porn stardom or
Yeah,
post-porn stardom?
this was some time ago.
Back when he was pure.
Before he was selling T-shirts. Screech, are you going to speak? All right, let's bring someone else up. Who else has a question, comment? Is Screech dead now? Jim saying in the comments on YouTube.
He is. He is.
Brian in the market says he was whacked. Did he get whacked?
When he was a porn star? Yeah.
Grandpa, go ahead and speak. And you were saying something, I cut you off. I apologize.
Oh, I said it. I was just talking to Paul.
Go ahead, Screech.
0.0.
Okay. 0.0 what? Go ahead. Finish your thought, please. All right, he's done.
Yeah, just get that son of a bitch off.
I tried to give him a chance.
Try to give him a chance. You got to be an adult to be on this panel. You don't have to agree. All viewpoints are up for discussion, but you need to be able to speak like an adult, not a teenager.
How'd I get in here then?
I don't know.
I was wondering the same thing about
Grandpa.
myself.
You qualify
I'm
as
still
an
trying to
adult.
figure it out.
Okay.
No, he doesn't qualify as an adult, Tony. Don't fill his head with opium.
All right, we're going to wrap this up if nobody else has questions. Mediocre, you got anything else you want to cover?
I think this was a very good space call, and I hope the community is paying attention and starts to do some serious digging into box office numbers and the revenue of the company. I mean,
I would encourage people to look. If you don't, we try and be as real as we can with you on the numbers. Like, there's people out there that legit think that AMC has been sandbagging popcorn income for the entire year, and they're going to unleash all of that income on us in Q4. That is not going to happen. The income has been on every quarterly statement. If you don't like this channel where we cover the financials and answer your questions, instead of creating theories in your own head, go find a friend of the family, someone you went to school with, someone that's a CPA that you trust. But you're going to get the same answer. And I think it's time that people stop living in a hopium world while things, because this is going to be a rough year if you're living with your head stuck up in the clouds. This is going to be a rough ride, 2024. And I want you to survive it mentally and emotionally. And understanding the financials is going to be key to that survival.
Hey, Paul, plan on coming back and speaking next month.
Maybe next week. We may do one of these next week again, depending on what the news is and how the price action goes and what other misinformation is going on out there in the community.
I mean, I'd like to have a conversation with anybody. I don't care, Boss Blunts, any YouTuber, if they can have a realistic conversation, I have no problem having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, I have some other speakers that I'm trying to get on for our next call that you guys know that haven't been on the panel before. So we'll keep on adding folks to bring in different perspective. And it's all people that I know that can have a adult conversation without drama and name calling and, clout chasing. Because we were here, as I said, to talk about issues, whether they're good or bad. There's always going to be something in these calls that we have that someone's not going to like. But it's because it is real, honest conversation. And we're not trying to hide from any topics. We'll continue to bring on people to get a variety of different ideas. You're going to like some of them. You might not like some of them, but the intent is to foster debate and discussion, just like I do in my head as I'm analyzing this play. I'm looking for the good. I'm looking for the bad. That's how you have an honest discussion with yourself when you're analyzing any investment. Look at both sides. See which one holds the most weight logically with you. Don't just focus on I'm all negative or I'm all positives. The truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you gotta want to know the truth, right? You gotta go search it out for yourself. I don't just listen to people tell me something. When they tell me something, I'll go research for myself and see if I can't find anything on what they're talking about, right? You got to be able to look at information for yourself too and make an informed decision for yourself. That's it.
I see Screech is requesting again. You already burned your chance, my friend. You can send me a DM and explain what happened, but you're not coming back up as a speaker. There's no second chances on this channel. You got to spend your first 15 seconds impressing us with your ability to speak like a mature adult.
Like I said, I'll talk to anybody in a cordial conversation about anything. It doesn't matter, But as soon as it goes the other way, I don't want nothing to do with it, right? Like, I tried to bring you up twice. You could have came up and said your piece on anything, and it wouldn't have mattered. But when you come up and you make a dog bark or whatever the hell you did, I really don't care. It doesn't much matter. But I got no time for that. I care about talking about what's going on with the company. And that's it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Mediocre, Bad Ape, Grandpa Barney, Mike, Dr. Paul, everybody that came up and spoke today. We'll let you know when we're having the next one and who the guest speakers will be. As soon as maybe next weekend, we'll do another one. Feel free to reach out to me on my YouTube channel or on Twitter. If you have questions, my DMs are always open. Mediocre, you're back on Twitter, or you got what's your Twitter handle, Mediocre?
Mediocre Trader 1. Yeah, hit me up there or whatever. But I want to thank all the speakers who came up today and spoke. Appreciate you guys for coming up and talking.
All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on the next one.
Good night.